What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast episode 275. I am your host, Ainsley Bowden, and we have quite a bit to talk about today, actually. We're going to be going over what's coming up in this next week, which is wild, how many things are going on in the gaming sphere this upcoming week. So we're talking about Fortnite, Halo, Call of Duty, the Game Awards, and a lot more. We've got a couple things to talk about with our Game Awards bet. We've got a special episode that we want to talk about coming up later this year. We also have TV trailers. We have PlayStation stealing stuff from people, apparently. And we're going to talk about the remake and remaster conversation. That's kind of the modern state of the industry with a lot of games. So we want to touch on that as well. So it should be a good show. Joined, as always, by two of the three amigos. We are missing Mr. Rodriguez today. He had actually planned to be on, but he Travis, but he actually got sick last night. So he messaged this morning, and just wish him well, please.
We have no reason to believe his sickness is at all related to the Iowa Hawkeyes football performance. Just to be clear.
He's used to losers in his sports team, so I doubt it was that, honestly.
I think he just went surfing because he's sick.
I was envisioning that, and that's a funny picture.
That would be, yeah, that is kind of funny, actually. Yeah. Although you never know, some of those people you wouldn't expect, and then they like do it, and you're like, oh damn, I wouldn't have thought they could. You know what I mean? Like there's sometimes where you can tell somebody surfs, but then sometimes you're just like, damn, I would never have guessed. It's crazy.
Anyway, joined by two of the three amigos. I'll start with Mr. Blue himself. How we doing, Mr. Hogue? Congrats, sir.
I am doing all right. Obviously, the Michigan Wolverines are the 3-time consecutive Big Ten football champions, which is pretty exciting. As for the chat asking me about my computer, if you did watch my channel, my computer had a motherboard failure, and I've been trying to figure out a way to stream with new computers. I worked all weekend, basically, to figure out how to even get to this point with the camera working. I think everything will be fine today. There's no reason to believe there will be any issues, but cross your fingers that I don't just explode into a ball of fire in the corner or otherwise take the whole show down with me. But I think we're good.
All right. Yeah, good to hear it. I said, if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know. So you look and sound like you do every week. So let's hope it holds out, because no one wants to listen to just me and Travis for a couple hours. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'd tune in. If I exploded and left the show, I would tune in to Ains versus Travis all show.
And of course, Mr. Tie Guy himself. How we doing, man?
McClunky.
Up late table topping?
Yeah, that's right. I was table topping last night. It was a good session. Some good sessions go long, and everybody just wants to stay at the table until it's properly done. And that's what we did yesterday, leading to our 15-hour RPG session.
I just have an image of the mom from Stranger Things calling down to the basement to tell you guys to wrap it up.
Yeah. See, this is the problem with becoming an adult, is that there's no mom to tell you to pack it up and
keep you in check. Yeah.
Sometimes that means you stay up till 3 a.m. rolling dice. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Hey, I'm sure it was a good time. That's all that matters.
Light getting in here behind me. You guys see this beam of light? What is this?
I don't know. I'm in Michigan. That doesn't look familiar to me.
Come on, curtains. Killing me. Yeah, it's very sunny.
Travis is like, what is this sunlight? This is strange.
Yeah, I don't like it. I'm gonna have to do something about that.
Before we get into the topics, I got some house cleaning items I wanted to mention this morning. So first, as always, we haven't reminded once in a while, but we are broadcasting this live on 2 channels, as you know, if you're with us right here live. But if you're tuning in later, it does do a lot for us if you can take just a couple seconds to like, comment, what have you on each of the videos for Hogue and I's channels. It helps a lot. YouTube has been very strange lately with its algorithm. It is so up and down. It's hard to predict anymore. Nobody knows that better than Hogue with what he's gone through this year. So anything in that vein really helps. So just a reminder on that piece. Thank you very much.
It's the truth.
On our 50 questions episode, I mentioned this last week. So we want to answer a whole bunch of questions from our listeners and you guys. Anything. It doesn't have to be gaming related. It can be for one of us. It can be for multiple of us. It can be for all of us. It's going to be a special episode we'll do here in a few weeks, somewhere around the holidays, just to have some fun, get to know us, have some laughs. So I was trying to figure out the best way to kind of curate those questions and kind of bring them together. So I did create a separate 50 question or Bitcast question channel on the Season Gaming Discord. I'm going to put that in the chat right now from a link perspective if you want to jump in there. If for some reason you do not use Discord, you don't want anything to do with Discord, what have you, either leave a comment on this video on the Season Gaming side or DM me. And I would say that leave DMs for your last option, please, because get a lot of DMs as it is, and they can be hard to sort through. So the Discord works because it's all threaded. Then it's a lot easier to sort through. If you can do that, I'd appreciate it. Otherwise, find a better way. I'm going to mute Travis real quick, but find a better way to there's other ways to get to it. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now.
Every question its own DM.
It's always a bummer for me because I try to respond to as many DMs as I can, and you just lose what you've read and what you haven't read because it just isn't as useful as an email server or something else. So
yes, yeah,
if
it's
you want
tough.
it to get lost, DM. If you want it to be seen by Ains, use what methods he proposes.
Yes, please. So pinned at the top of on the Season Gaming side right now. I'll put it on the your side as well, Hogue. If Tide or anyone else can pin that or just put that up somewhere, that would be appreciated. And of course, if you're listening to this later, you can find the link in the description. So thank you. One other thing I want to mention, I want to give a shout out to my friend Ben. He goes by Ben Kenobi online, but Ben, he does a lot of work with Xbox art. So he does graphic design and he's worked with Xbox on some things, but he has started creating these kind of collectible coins, custom collectible coins. He designs them. This one's for Forza, obviously. And they're really nice quality. They come in this little kind of nice Xbox fan art, which is an account he runs. Ringbox, and I have several of these Forza ones that I want to share out. Obviously, I'm keeping one, but I'm going to find a way to give those away. But I'm going to put that in the description as well. So keep an eye on the account and look in the description after the show. We're going to find a way to not only give these away, but it's going to become a regular thing. So I'll have links to his account if you want to check those out, if they interest you at all. But they're really, really cool. And obviously, he's not selling them. We're just going to give them away to members of the community. So more to come on that as well.
Because I feel like you don't do garage sales. You do giveaways.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I haven't done a garage sale since I don't know when. Very long time ago.
I haven't seen a garage sale in a number of years. I don't know how common they are in San Francisco, but yeah, maybe they just fell out of fashion.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I always like to give back if I can. It's just, I don't know. I find it fun. Call me weird.
I will.
I know.
It'll be unrelated, but he will.
And of course, there it is. Okay. And of course, I want to shout out Against the Tide, as always, with the picks this week. She did not know that Dan wasn't going to be here. Like we said, we didn't expect him, but it looks like this week we are headed to Hogwarts, fellas.
Look at that chin dimple. I have never had one of those in my life.
Oh my God. It finally happened. This is great for me. Like that's who if you Hollywood casted me as a movie and I was much more attractive than I actually am. That is what I'd look like. Look at that Chad. Oh, that's
Slytherin.
Dude, and I'm in Slytherin. They know me, dude. God dang.
I don't even know the houses. So you Slytherin, I think, is Red Hufflepuff?
No, you're Gryffindor.
You're Gryffindor, but I don't know why they made you. I don't know why they made you look that way. You look terrible,
I look like Ken, so I'm gonna be on the streets fighting.
No, you look like you're not in Hogwarts. You look like you're in the American school for wizardry. Like that is.
Ains is in the anime translation of Hogwarts.
Yeah, dude, that's pretty bad. They must have seen the episode with you and Resident Evil outfit.
Well, that's what Tide said. She said she took the picture of me with the wig on and loaded it into the AI, so that's why it came out that way.
Well, she had no choice because if you were in high school, you would have to have hair. I don't think there's many bald people in high school, but that makes sense. Dan, they
Dan
just
does
went
look like
for
a
it.
teacher at Hufflepuff.
Yeah, he looks like a teacher. I appreciate that he's got the smolder going there. That little look, like those people who have the look on their face like they're constantly trying to look good for the ladies. That's what he looks like. It's like, dude, just let it go. Like, just let your face smile, man. This isn't natural. And then Hogue, I don't know. Hogue, you just got drip, dude. I get it now.
I know. Mrs. Hogue. Yeah, I get it.
Dimple,
I get it.
Dude. You're in Ravenclaw, which totally fits. You freaking nerd.
It looks like Travis and Hogue are already going to be set up for verses for all time. Like you're the two students who know everything and are going to battle about it, like argue about it or debate, I should say, about it.
For sure. It looks like we're going to be best friends until I kill Hogue in a duel. You know what I mean? We're going to be BFFs for sure in school. And honestly, I don't know which of us is going to get the ladies more. I mean, he's more classically handsome, but I'm definitely getting all the ladies who like a nerd. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, dude. I'm very happy with the AI today. This is pretty good. They think I look like that. Damn, dude.
Those are good.
Oh my God. It's good stuff as always, Ty. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Well, I miss my.
All right. I'll send you that pic so you can save it and make it your profile picture.
I just put it over. Just put it over the. I don't need to see my 7 a.m. lack of sleep face right now. Man.
All right. And then of course we got a couple early super chats. Googleman was here first thing. He's back regaining his title. €5 super chat. I'm all for remakes when they're done well and timed right. How many Final Fantasy VIIs are there at this point? Not sure about cookies with nuts.
The answer is
that was a sharp turn there, Google. I like it.
1 3/4 Final Fantasy VIIs right now. But if you're thinking of like the rest of the spin-offs, there is of course the Dirge of Cerberus and Crisis Core and a movie and things like that.
There's a mobile game tie-in, wasn't there?
Ever Crisis. Yes, they like the word crisis.
Always a crisis. Yeah.
But yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to be awesome. So yes, I think certainly when we talk about remakes and remasters, which we'll do later in this episode,
we'll bring this back up. Yeah.
But I think 25 plus years is enough to get a technological difference in your video games.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll gonna be talking about that a little later in the show, but yeah, we'll bring this back up, Google. As for cookies with nuts, I don't know, where are you guys?
I love nuts in my cookies. Walnut chocolate chip is awesome.
I bet you do. Yeah, no, nuts are rule. I have no aversion to them.
Yeah, I have. I don't know. I couldn't pick a favorite cookie. Maybe sugar cookie, peanut butter. I don't know. What's your favorite cookie? There's a question.
Sugar cookies are too simple.
Yeah.
You need some
dude. That's so one note, man.
Textures. Yeah.
Sugar cookie is the answer I would expect to hear from somebody who likes candy corn, honestly. That's just such a bad choice, dude.
Okay, go on.
My favorite cookie is a local cookie shop in my neighborhood called Hot Cookie.
I'm not asking about the store. What type of cookie?
Wait. I'm getting there. I have to explain the store before I get to the answer.
We don't need the San Francisco neighborhood story to go with your answer.
Something like Snickerdoodle.
You kind of do, Ames, because if I said my favorite cookie's the fudge packer, you'd be like, what did you just say to me? See? You see what happens when you don't get the story, Ames? You happy now? It's a cookie store in the Castro, and they're well known for having
Entendre?
Cookies that are entendre, and some of them are actually shaped like penises and vaginas. And they're very good, but they're also super flamboyant. They sell underwear at the store.
Not references I was expecting at 11:30 in the morning on a Sunday, but
look, this is the world I live in. But anyway, they're part of the Castro gay community and tongue in cheek, and they happen to have a cookie that is bomb as hell. It's got like that gooey inside chocolate chip. It's got dark chocolate, and it's just kind of like, I think it's got marshmallow in it. I don't know what else is in it, but it's just damn good. That's my favorite cookie.
Okay.
You said I hate messy foods. I wouldn't like a gooey cookie. That's not.
Yeah, it sounds like a cake in your hand rather than a cookie, but
it's a pretty thick boy. You don't eat it in one sitting for sure.
You said they sell underwear.
They do.
So it's an underwear cookie shop.
No, it's a cookie store that has merch. And because it's in the Castro and the gay theme, they happen to sell, underwear and stuff. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay. All right. And by the way,
Yeah,
Kyle said hipster Travis back here.
but come on. It's just, it's
This is the
local.
guy that
It's
doesn't
not
know
even
what a
hipster. It's
Cracker
well
Barrel
known
is,
where I'm
folks.
at. But yeah, if you guys ever come to SF, I'll have you go there. Like it's one of the places you want to stop by because it's right there on the Castro Strip. You get to see all the crazy stuff that goes down on that street, and then eat bomb ass cookies. So
Okay. All right. Let's see. What do people say? We got peanut butter. We got chocolate chip, double chocolate chip, lemon. Good shout out, Katie. I like lemon cookies.
My favorites
Peanut butter's-
right now are almond coconut.
That sounds good. I could go for
I'll
that.
take it.
They're
Coconut
amazing.
rules.
Yeah. All right. Google, thank you as always, man. Appreciate you. Pyro, not euro, excuse me, £2 super chat. Ains, play cassette beast, monthly reminder.
Cassette piece is so good.
It is. Play it.
It is in fact so good.
I 100% believe everyone. It's just the usual, trying to find time to play a new game that
There are an infinite number of games this year.
Mentally prepare myself to play. I will give it a shot, Pyro. Does it matter what platform I play it on?
It works perfectly fine on Switch. I can attest to that. So
Yeah, I've been on
whatever
Xbox,
power
it
level,
works
whatever
great.
you're gonna play it, most likely.
But it's on everything?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
Yep. I got it on Xbox. It's a good game. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Vintage Willow back in the house with the 10 season gaming memberships. Legend, absolute legend. Thank you, Willow. Following up with a member comment: nuts do not belong in baked goods, she says. Well, that's a pretty popular opinion, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. It's like if you're having a baked good with sugar and icing and whatever else goes into your baked good, keep the one healthy aspect away from it.
Man,
you don't have to have icing on a baked good. I don't love nuts and icing, but I do think walnut chocolate chip cookies are the best.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you don't have anything to break up the chocolate chip or whatever it is you're eating, like, your options are pretty limited. Like, it's a nice little savory bite to put in, but what do I know? I don't know anything about cookies.
I don't know.
One of these times we're going to run an episode that we don't immediately become Foodcast.
Yeah, Foodcast.
Sure.
Yep. Thank you.
Hey, to be fair, we never introduce these items. That's always the community.
Yeah, Google did this to us today. That's what Googleman does. He throws
honestly, we should not talk about this stuff when Dan isn't here. Like, I feel like it's us talking about law stuff when Hoag's not on the podcast. It's just like, dude, Dan's gonna have the strongest opinions. He's gonna fight us all about things that we say. He's gonna make fun of me for liking the fudge packer. Like, what are we doing talking about this stuff? We have no business.
True. This is true. We'll ask next week when Dan's back, and he will go on a rant about it, I'm sure. In fact, I think he's sick. I don't think he's actually here in the crowd. So we should pick like a healthy cookie with like raisins and nuts and, that kind of stuff, and say that won our poll last week of best cookie, and then just, light the match, if you will, and let him, just let him go on the rant. We'll do that next week.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Shoosh, €5 super chat. Speaking of bakery items, damn it. I am making a sponge cake with dragon fruit and mango jam. That sounds
delicious.
That sounds amazing, Shoosh. Yeah, that really does. I had dragon fruit over Thanksgiving for something. I don't remember why, but that sounds great. Hope it comes out well. Better than my Halo food from last winter. Nissa Hauer, member for 5 months. Remnant 2 is on Xbox Game Pass for everyone to know. Very true. Remnant 2, fantastic game.
I was going to ask Travis if he had any idea that this was going to happen, because it just shadow dropped.
I was super ready to announce it before they accidentally leaked it themselves the night before. Yeah, had an article ready and everything. So then it happened, and I was like, all right, well, there you go.
And Remnant 1, by the way, they added both. So
you can play Remnant 1 as well.
Check them out.
Yeah, that is a great time to do it. I have an inkling that they were waiting to get DLC before this happens, because that way, you buy the game and then maybe you decide you want to play the DLC because it's a damn great game. And then they make some money. But it's cool. Cool to see them back on subscription services, because I feel like that was a major reason a lot of people played the first one.
It's why I discovered it. Yeah.
Oh, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I thought the same thing, Travis, was as soon as I saw the drop, I said, oh, they just released an expansion, didn't they? That makes sense.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Nissa. Mr. Forte, good to see you, man. $4.99 super chat. Hail to 3 victors, friends. Hogue, our Wolverines getting another shot at the Natty. Go blue.
Go blue.
There you go. Forte, hope you're doing well, my friend. We need to get Forte on here again sometime. Great dude. So
I'm excited.
Thank you. And lastly, Mr. Bizzle. Good morning, all you beautiful gamers. Good morning, Bizzle. Hope you're doing well, brother. Bizzle is one of our SG OGs. He's been with us since the beginning. Awesome.
SGOG sounds like a shirt.
We literally have a logo on shirts. I have an SGOG shirt. In fact, go ahead and start talking. So we're going to move to what games you've been currently playing.
I just like the directive. Go ahead and start talking. Just
go ahead and start talking. Take it away.
Well, I finally took the leap and got Lords of the Fallen this week on the PlayStation Black Friday sale.
Okay.
And I am super impressed by the multiple realities kind of trick that they have within the game. It is really, really
Unreal
impressive.
5 is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's really impressive, and I have enjoyed it quite a lot. In terms of random games that I've been playing, I have taken back up with Remnant 2, which it reminded me it existed really when the news dropped, so that was good. I have been playing Diablo 4, as always. Starfield, because Travis guilted me into it last weekend.
Hell yeah. It worked.
And Cyberpunk 2077. As well as for the Hogue Notes type stuff, a game called Mail Time. I'm saying it wrong. Mail Time. And a game that I referenced last week that, again, kind of I reminded myself that it existed, which is The Chance of Sinar, which, if you don't know, that game is about kind of translating language and trying to figure out what, I want to say runes, but they're not runes, but alien languages mean by looking at pictures and various things and figuring out what people are saying to you. It's a kind of puzzle game, which I really enjoy. It's got a very dramatic visual style. If you're interested in any of that, check it out. It's available everywhere. And Mail Time is a little bit more specific. You play as like a little mushroom girl who gives mail to various woodland denizens in a small open world environment. But it's perfect for my kids. And so I'm always looking for those kinds of games. And that's what I'm playing, Ains. I hope that was talking enough.
I remembered I was about to say we have that logo and I have the shirt, and I know some of our community have the shirt, but I had a mug that's usually behind me. You may never notice, but see, SGOG. So you can get that in our merch store.
That's lovely.
Plug. But yeah, it's a cool logo. Mail Time, huh? Lords of the Fallen. So, I was giving you crap, obviously, earlier this week to not buy Lords of the Fallen and just keep playing more Elden Ring.
He did. In the messages, he said, don't buy it. You're still got to go with Elden Ring. And I have to admit, playing Lords of the Fallen.
Don't do it.
Don't
do it.
I like the look, the trick, and the combat a little bit better than Elden Ring. I've talked about this in this space before, which is that the Elden Ring world and that kind of really super weird vibe that From Software gives that I know a lot of people love really isn't my favorite thing. And Lords of the Fallen is a darker version of the original, but it's also still got that kind of chonky boy combat, a little bit more accessible to someone like me, and higher magic. It's all magic that you get to see, and it's another world where you die and you live in the hellscape, and it's all good stuff that's a little bit more accessible and approachable to a guy like me. That doesn't mean that From Software is bad at what they do or that Elden Ring isn't awesome. I'm just really enjoying Lords of the Fallen. It's meeting me where I live.
Cool. Yeah,
a little bit easier, to be honest. I think it's on the easier end of the Souls game spectrum, but maybe Travis can correct me.
Well, and I think they've made it easier with updates.
It was easier from the beginning. I would say, like, especially after having come off of Lies of P, which is one of the harder Souls likes.
They've also made easier, right?
Which they also actually did make easier, yeah. But Lords of the Fallen, I think, is going for, you play the way you want to a certain extent, and it's got a lot more opportunities for you to come back from defeat with regaining health and all that stuff. So I think Lords of the Fallen is it's got difficulty in some areas, but especially the boss fights, like it's pretty easy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it seems that way to me, and it seems difficult enough to make it feel like it's a slog of getting advancement. Not probably for you, Travis, or you, Ains, but it's got difficulty that still gives you reward for getting past things, but it's not that kind of teeth grating. How many times am I going to have to play Godric type thing? So I really, really enjoy Lords of the Fallen. I give it a high recommendation. I got it on sale, so you might want to wait for whatever the holiday sale is. But I'm been surprised by how much I've been enjoying it. And the trick of essentially having a lantern that shows a completely different environment overlaid on your environment at the same time that you're playing through it to solve puzzles and traverse the environment is really, really cool. It is my favorite thing that I've seen maybe this year in terms of tech tricks. And I don't know entirely how they did it, but it's great.
Yeah, that's their killer app, and I think it sort of shows the two things that we know about Unreal Engine 5 so far, which is that it seems to be pretty easy to accomplish cool tricks like that seem like magic compared to other games, and also that it brings with it a whole bunch of performance issues, which seems to be another trait of that engine, at least right now. We haven't had a ton of games that perform super well on it. I'd be interested to hear from you if you think that those performance issues are still a thing. Are you seeing some of that stuff and like low res textures that load in later and some stuff like that? Or the frame rate also was pretty rough. I played that game like not that long ago, like maybe a month ago, and it was better, but it still had some of those issues. Do you still see a lot of that when you play the game?
Well, so obviously I didn't play it when everybody was having tech difficulties with it when it launched, but I can say I don't have texture issues on the PlayStation 5. I haven't seen any of those yet. There is what I would call kind of a frame pacing feel sometimes. Like it seems like a PC that needs a beat to figure itself out every once in a while, but nothing that bothers me.
Cool. Yeah, it does get worse as you go. So like you get to an area where like there's fire everywhere, and then
I haven't hit the Lords of the Fallen swamps, whatever that is. So
oh yeah, that's pretty early then. So yeah,
it's pretty early. Yeah,
it might get worse because I at least when I was playing, like the second half of the game was less optimized than the first half, but I have no doubt it's better. Like when I played it like a month ago, like I was like, okay, this is way better than at launch than comparatively. But yeah, I mean that's sort of that game got a lot of praise from me in my review, and it's mostly because of the world traveling back and forth stuff. I mean, that is just like the coolest dang thing.
It is.
And I think my favorite part is the fact that you don't actually have to toggle back and forth between them. You can just hold up your lamp and just see a little
real time
piece of that world populate as you're walking around. Like that's just so dang cool. So yeah, definitely worth a play. I'm kind of sad that game kind of fell off the map as fast as it did. You don't really hear about it. But I really think it's a standout game this year.
Yep, I've been enjoying myself, so I am very happy to have made the purchase, and I wasn't quite sure even when I hit the button. Sometimes that's the way you buy games. At least I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's another one I need to get back to. The update they did, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago-ish, really helped on the performance side. I played it once since then, and it was noticeable. I'm playing on PS5 as well. And I think they announced this week, someone can correct me if wrong, but I think I saw that they had passed 900,000 copies, which means obviously they're approaching 1 million, but not quite there, which I was hoping that game probably would have sold better than that at launch. So maybe it picks up steam a bit, because I know like even Remnant 2 passed 2 million, I believe, Travis, that been announced. So, to see Remnant 2 more than double Lords of the Fallen, not, Remnant 2 deserves
sales,
it.
Or do they announce players? I never know.
On which one?
Remnant 2 has sold more than 2 million for sure, because they sold 1 million like the week they launched. They got like more than 1 million, like really
good for them.
So, yeah,
I like Remnant 2. I just don't like it as much as Travis, which I don't know that anybody on the planet likes it as much as Travis.
I don't think
Ben
that's
might
true.
not like it as much as Travis.
Okay, so
according to the Metacritic, there's a lot of people that like it more than me, but
I must have been mistaken on something because I just quickly looked. It says Lords of the Fallen, the new one, sold over 1 million units in 10 days. So obviously I was off. I don't know what I was thinking of. So
Well, I mean, there's so
hopefully
many stats people throw around. It could be concurrent players. I mean, you just don't know.
yeah.
Although
So
I
sorry
don't think
about
it has
that, but
900,000 concurrent players.
I hope it does well. I hope that I like to see these, we get a lot of Souls likes nowadays. It's just, it's the way the industry is with it. But I like when something like this with Lords of the Fallen, like they had their original in 2014, I believe it was, and it was okay. But it was pretty clear that it wasn't super original. They didn't really try to push the bar. And I think this one, they took a step back and said, what can we bring unique, to this? And I think that the lamp and the backbone of what they were building is a lot better in this one. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I've been very happy with it.
Cool. Travis, been playing anything good?
Yeah, I mean, the most of my time this week has been dedicated to virtual reality. I've been playing Asgard's Wrath 2, which I'm reviewing and can't talk about. I actually did find out though there's a separate embargo, so I think I'm allowed to talk about the game on like December 14th or something like that. Like it's like kind of far away, but on December 6th I can talk about the first, I think, 3 sagas, which is like the first 15 hours of the game and some of the other stuff. And we're not doing a preview for it because we already previewed this game like a month ago, but I can talk about it on this show next week, which will be cool. But I'm spending an absolute metric ton of time in there. If you don't know, Asgard's Wrath 2, it is a 100+ hour RPG in VR, open world, side quests, companions, the whole shebang. And so reviewing that has been really cool, and also a juggling act of batteries because the Meta Quest has a 3-hour battery life, and so I have a ludicrous setup with 2 separate headsets and 7 separate external batteries that I'm hot swapping to keep my gaming sessions uninterrupted for 12-13 hours at a time. So yeah, that's been its own kind of parody, but the actual game is going great, and I'll be able to talk more about it next weekend.
Cool.
So we'll talk about it here. That'll be a season gaming exclusive.
Nice.
I'm not writing about it on the site or anything.
Exclusive.
Yeah. Bring it on over.
Yeah. So that'll be fun to talk about. Other stuff I've been playing.
Before you jump there, Travis, got a nice comment here from T. Hi, all. I wanted to thank Travis. Started playing Remnant 2, and as a casual gamer, I am surprised by how much I love it. It's delightfully chaotic and beautiful.
Nice.
Good
Yeah.
stuff.
More people should play that game, especially people who are afraid of Souls-likes. It is still a Souls-like, but like it gets rid of a lot of the stuff that Souls-like, like it doesn't have the one of the main features people would talk about with Souls-like. You don't lose anything when you die. You lose a little bit of progress, but you don't lose like currency and that you have to go recover or face elimination or anything like that. So I would say it's way more approachable. It's also a shooter, which is kind of more approachable. But yeah, it's such a cool game, man.
Yeah, it's a good game. To Darth Max, I'm going to be starting Remnant 2 in a few hours. I'm so excited. Remnant 1 was great. The only issue I was playing solo is brutal 0 revive. So which Remnant 2 solves if you use the class with the dog, of course. So
yep, Remnant 2 has lots of options for playing alone, and just in general, I would say is like its rules are more clear, which makes it feel more forgiving. It's not that it's necessarily easier, but there's definitely more difficulty options. Like you can make the game easy if you want, which is cool. So great game. Other games I played, I beat Talos Principle 2, I think right after the show yesterday. I got like the secret endings and the extra gold puzzles and all that stuff done. Super cool game. Highly recommend it. Ending is worth it. I have very few criticisms about that game because it just does the thing that it is good at so well. It does the puzzles like amazingly well. Gives lots of room for you to run around and find some of the secret stuff and understand the world a little bit better. the RPG part of it and the decisions you make and the relationships you can build with the characters is really dang cool. I probably should have spent more time on it. I ran by my robots a bunch of times just to get to the next puzzle. Sometimes you just get on a heater. You don't want to stop to talk to somebody. But yeah, and really my only complaint is there's a pretty major secret cutscene that you unlock, and in order to get it, you have to do these optional things that most of them aren't very exciting, and they require you to run around the woods a lot. Running around the woods looking for secrets, which isn't the most fun in the world. But I did get them all. I got pretty much all the secrets in that game, which was super cool. Nice. I don't think I'll play it again. I was thinking, like, is there replayability to this one? You can certainly start it over, but with all the puzzles having been solved and me having like an understanding of how they work, I think that challenge would be gone. And I don't know if it's worth. I feel like I got the best ending. Frankly, I got the one that I wanted. So super cool game.
You just have to wait till you forget.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Wait a little bit and play it again. Although I did that with Talos Principle 1. I played it a second time and I was like, yeah, I remember all these. I don't know why. I was just like, yeah, more or less, like, because there's certain things that stick with you where you have like a breakthrough moment. And you're like, oh, and for some reason, I just remembered all those like major breakthroughs, and so it just didn't have the same kind of logic and trick loop. But yeah, what else did I play this week? I played games all week. I'm sure what else did I do?
Isn't that fun when you sit here on Sunday and you're like, wait, what did I do with my life?
Yeah. I got a nice comment here while you're thinking of that, Travis, from South Florida Thrifter. Not my subject of interest, but popping in to say, good to see you, Hoglaw. You're an inspiration for real.
Oh, I think that's too nice, but I really appreciate it. So thank you so much, South Florida Thrifter.
I agree. It is too nice. Be meaner.
Yeah, be meaner.
Travis will take care of this problem for you.
We determined Hogue has it too easy here. You know what I mean? So
that's right. I forgot about that.
That's right. Yeah. And by the way, South Florida Thrifter, you don't have to love gaming. You're welcome to hang out with us. Stay a while.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay, I just remember I pulled up I played games. Playing this game, Crime Boss Rockay City.
Yes. How did I forget?
Yeah. How could you forget?
Preface it.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, if you're just catching us, if you're just joining us this evening, we had a gentleman's wager about what would be nominated Game of the Year. Even with low expectations built into our predictions, they deemed themselves even lower in our estimation than we had possibly expected. And that led to me losing, which means that I have to play the bad game of the panel's choice. The panel discussed it and they decided that I should have to play the game called Crime Boss Rockay City, a game that has more celebrities in it than any other amount of time was spent on any element of the game.
More celebrities than game design?
More celebrities than game is how I would describe it, for sure. I was extremely surprised upon booting this game up to discover that it is a roguelike game where you have to replay the same levels over and over again and start the story over if your protagonist dies, which is odd, and also requires you to then recruit members that you play as your avatar instead so that your main character doesn't die to keep him alive. And then when they die, you have to replay through the same story beats. Basically, what I discovered from this game is that it's kind of first of all, it's a roguelike, which is a really weird choice, like super weird. It doesn't really make any sense with the way the game works. And then secondly, it is a Payday clone. Like if you know what Payday is, it's like you point on the map, you select a job, you run in and you complete some sort of like heist and then you leave. This is like that, except for you pick a random petty crime, like breaking into a gas station and stealing its cash register money. and then you go and you do that, and it takes like 25 seconds, and then the mission's over. And the maps are basically just like if you do the gas station mission, the map is just a small gas station. If you try to go even 2 feet away from the gas station, you just are not allowed. They're like, nope, can't go that way. And so it's like the smallest maps ever imagined, the smallest jobs ever, terrible AI. Like the shooting mechanics are just predictably just terrible. Like just basic. They got a pre-built Unreal 4, thing and just threw it out there. And the only thing that is shocking about this game is that it has so many celebrities attached to it. Like the main guy you talk to is the dude you see here with the baseball bat. The main character is an actor. I don't know if I've seen him in anything. Vanilla Ice and Donald Glover and Danny Trejo and all these people.
Chuck Norris.
It's still Danny Glover, not Donald Glover.
Sorry, Danny Glover, not Donald
Danny Glover. And of course, Vanilla Ice.
Vanilla Ice is in there, and then Chuck Norris plays like the cop that's hunting you down the whole time. So occasionally you'll have to do missions against him. I'm probably going to play more of this game to my everlasting shame. I don't understand how this game got made, or I honestly just think they probably thought people would just buy it because it has a bunch of celebrities on it, but it is a pretty horrible shell of a game. And it's also got DLC, which I now
that I spent $40 on for you.
Yeah, I spent $40 on it.
Wait, we have to go back a step here because Travis has said a couple things. He's going to go back and play more of this, presumably after we have made him, and that it has DLC that he now owns.
Yeah.
So what happened here, Travis?
Well, the reason I'm going to go back and play it is because I know I'm not required to beat it, but I feel an obligation to. I finish what I start, and this game is bad, and I want to see how bad it is.
What you think about this, Travis?
It's a morbid curiosity. Oh, get the hell out of here with that, Leo. Come on. Don't be insane. That's crazy. That's coming from somebody who has not played Rocket City. There's no way you played that game and thought, oh yeah, this is better than
or
Payday
hasn't played Payday.
Or hasn't played Payday 3. Don't get me wrong. Payday 3 has had a rough launch, and I said that in my review. I was like, we're in for the usual terrible Starbreeze launch. But that game, when you go on a job, you feel like you're actually committed, like you're doing a full heist. There's multiple ways to approach it. The gunplay is way better. The number of different unique enemies you can do, even like just basic stuff like the dialogue and when your character speaks feeling like they're a character and that sort of stuff is just not there in Rocket City. Like you either play the protagonist who says the same 3 lines over and over again on every job, or you play a random person he recruited who just goes, yeah, let's do it. Well, let's like, that's like, it's just it's so bad, dude. No comparison. Like,
so if you didn't know this,
Payday 3 is a good game, but geez, dude, Rocket City is so terrible.
Yeah, if you didn't know, looking at OpenCritic on this game. So the reason we picked this for Travis is we just thought it'd be interesting because if you missed this game, it came out early this year. It's published by 505, who actually published some good games. And it has all these celebrities. It kind of just popped up out of the blue with all these celebrities. But it's rated, its critic average is a 53. IGN gave it a 4. Other sites gave it 3s, and only 12% of critics who reviewed it actually recommend playing it. So we not only thought this would be funny from a poor game perspective, but just we wanted to know. Like, I wanted to know someone who had played this game with all these celebrities to see what the hell was going on with it. So it was a good choice.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. I think it was a good choice, and it is one that I was just curious about because like as soon as it got announced, everybody who knows anything about games was like, "That's going to be a terrible game," and then it came out and it was. And I think the fact that nobody was surprised just meant everybody kind of just went on with their business and just never even took a second look at it. So in a way, that makes less of a splash than like the Golems, right? Where there's like a big IP attached to it, and even that one, like people knew it was going to be bad, but when it came out, it was like so bad that people were just like, "Dang!" And I feel like Rocket City didn't get that, so it is interesting. I do want to see where it goes. And yeah, I also played other. We aren't allowed to talk about the Suicide Squad Alpha. Are we allowed to mention that it's happening?
No.
Okay, great. So that's not happening. And then we have the I also played Roller Drome, which is a game I played when it came out, but I never finished it, and I just was in the mood to play a game where you rollerblading and shooting things in slow motion, so I booted that up. It's fun. And then I also started up Sherlock Holmes. Is it Chapter 1? the one where he's a young lad. You know that one?
Which is a game I love. So
Yeah, I previewed that game like over a year ago, before, like long before it came out, and I was like, this is a cool game. I want to play more of it, and then I never did. And so I had a little bit of time while I was waiting for my VR game to come in, and I picked that thing up. Oh, also, this is kind of dangerous. I can talk about it. Have you guys ever played the game GTFO?
I've heard of it. I have not played it.
no.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's made by actually, funny enough, that we're just talking about it. Some of the people that worked on the original Payday games, and they are preparing to like finish that game. Their final, like, they did this thing that was very not smart of them, where they sold their game and they promised no microtransactions or DLC ever, and that everything would be free. And so now that they've been supporting the game for years, they're getting to the point where they're like, all right, we just have to finish it because this is not financially viable to keep supporting this game that we promised we would never charge more money for. So they're, presumably working on something new. But they're finishing that, and I went and hung out with some of the people from their studio. They were in San Francisco, flew over from Stockholm, and we played the final chapter of that together. Because it lacks a like major audience on IGN.com, there's just not a lot of people talking about this game. We ended up not publishing anything about it, but I just wanted to mention that game is super cool. It is like, its whole thing is, it's kind of like a almost like Left 4 Dead format, right? Where you're going through different areas, and it's got kind of procedurally generated random halls and enemy spawns and stuff like that, except for its kind of major calling card or key differentiator is that it's just like designed for hardcore players in mind, with like uber difficulty. And you have to be in a group of people who are all wearing mics and communicating, because if you don't like time stealth kills and warn each other about waking somebody up and all that stuff, you will just get absolutely obliterated. Every time you open a door that has an alarm on it, you have to spend like minutes setting up turrets and like planning for how you're going to deal with it when everything wakes up and runs at you. And it's such a damn good game. And I don't think I've talked about it on the show, because I started playing it in 2020. I think it came out in like its 1.0
Came out in
was
2019 in early access.
Yeah, so I played it the first time when it entered the 1.0 phase. So we weren't on the show when that game it was in the limelight, but they keep making chapters for it, and it's a really good game made by a really talented team. And I think it kind of gets overlooked because it is so niche, and has it kind of is intentionally like the hardcore shooter audience, which I feel like is a pretty big niche when most shooters go for the largest audience possible. But it is a really cool game, and I kind of forgot it was that good, because playing with the devs and some of my my peers in games media was just a lot of fun.
We've got some people backing you up in chat, Travis.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I feel like there's probably people in this crowd, the SG crowd, since it's an older audience, that would probably really get a kick out of GTFO if you haven't played it yet. And also I have you can't really see it. One sec. But they sent me home with our little plushie of the striker, the monster. Which, by the way, this is the most horrifying plushie I've ever seen. It's got like the body of like a ripped dude.
It's all muscular.
Its face is just a gross head. But yeah, it was cool, man. And I'm sometimes you go to these preview events and you're not really sure what they're going to show you. And sometimes you leave the event and you immediately know that like your editor is just not going to let you publish anything about it. Because I know GTFO doesn't have a big enough audience for it to become an article. It's just not worth the time, the money that they would have to pay me to write about it. And so I just want to kind of use this as a platform to say that game's good, and I'm really glad that they're finishing it, and I think more people should play it.
Yeah, they describe it as extreme cooperative horror shooter.
Yeah,
I remember hearing about it, and
honestly, it's right up your alley, Ains. Like, it was made for you. You should be playing that game.
I would love it if I could get a group, a dependable group, to play. Four players,
they also said
cool.
so there's no embargo on any of this stuff. there's no embargo about any of the GTFO coverage. So they said that, now that they're officially finishing it, the final thing they want to do is put it on consoles as well, which I know is big for you since a lot of your friends play on consoles. That would be pretty big. I think it would help it increase its audience by a lot, because I feel like it doesn't get enough attention on Steam. And also the early access model, I feel like makes your game in the long term have like less of a footprint, because people, there's always that crowd that goes, I don't want to play the game yet because it's an early access, and then when it actually comes out, by then it's already old news. I feel like that happened with Grounded. It's like, oh, I don't want to play it. It's not finished yet. And then when it is finished, you're like, well, now it's old, So
I think Baldur's Gate is the only one I've seen kind of survive that cycle.
Yeah. Well, Minecraft did it.
Year.
Yeah. There's enough examples, but it does happen to some games where it feels like even though they ended up being great games, they get overlooked because of the model they chose. So.
Yeah, its head reminds me of the Langolier, if anyone knows that reference. Yeah, of course. Langoliers. Nice. Stephen King novel. Very cool, man. Very cool. I hadn't even thought of that game in a few years. So to your point, so that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, I hope they get more attention. And I'm sorry I can't cover it more. Not yet.
Well, you know who got attention that I'm focused on now over your shoulder, Travis, is the Cult of the Lamb.
Yeah, Mr. Lamb.
They're adding sex.
Adding sex to their game seems like an odd choice, and I'm now a little concerned he's too close to Baby Yoda. But
yeah, that's true. I mean, having played that game, I think sex for sure belongs in it. I mean, it's a cult. But do you think that's the whole point of cults, Hogue?
Yeah, and you grow.
That's call me old school, but where I come
back
from,
in my day, cults had a point.
Yeah, where I came from, cults had a point. All right, and that point was socially acceptable orgies. All right.
I think they're cults because it maybe not socially acceptable.
Cult of the Lamb, but
it was a fun game.
It's an interesting addition.
I'm in favor.
Yeah. They also announced their new free update for that game too.
Developer, okay. Devolver Digital, is that enough of your slut shaming, Hogue?
Well,
oh man. Oh,
that's fine. Look, I'm always impressed by people making marketing on social media work. And if you don't know, this all happened because the name of their next DLC is like Secrets of the Flesh or something like that. And the internet did what the internet does and said, oh, okay, we're looking forward to our little cartoon characters sex DLC. And they said something along the lines of, if you give us X amount of likes or X amount of follows, we'll turn it into that.
Yeah, they basically said if we reach 300,000 followers, we will add sex to the game. And basically, they did it right. As you said, they blew up. They actually have they're over 500,000 now. So they gained, a few 100,000 followers just from that.
Well, and if you follow other indie games like I do on Twitter or elsewise, you see some of them kind of following in the footsteps and joking about adding sex to their game if they can have some more follows.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I'm going to announce my OnlyAins account. Same way. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. Get 3 follows, maybe. We'll see. Anyway, let's jump over. So we've got a big week coming up for gaming here. So there's a lot of things that kind of have been announced for this week. And of course, we have the Game Awards as well. So I want to kind of go through here. I kind of go in order of when these things kind of occurred or are happening. So we'll start with Fortnite of all games, which we don't talk a lot about here, despite it being like one of the biggest games in the world.
I really like
yesterday. Fortnite. Yeah, so yesterday Fortnite had their Big Bang event, which was kind of the introduction into the next chapter of Fortnite, Chapter 5. And I don't really play Fortnite. I don't personally enjoy it that much, but I'm always impressed by what they do, right? You can't kind of deny their innovation in the space and what they kind of put out there and keep their audience engaged. And so if you didn't watch this, basically, I think it was about 13, 14 minutes, and it included the concert kind of theme, if you will, with Eminem. So he was part of it. And then they announced 3 additions to Fortnite coming this week, all unique additions. So they have Lego Fortnite launching on December 7th, what's the date as we sit here? That's Thursday. They have Rocket Racing, which is made by Psyonix, like Rocket League, coming on December 8th, so Friday. And then they have Fortnite Festival, which is like in the theme of Guitar Hero, launching on December 9th, which is Saturday. So they have 3 new kind of fully immersive game experiences within Fortnite, all launching this week. And they also just happened to mention that in November, they had their biggest month ever, over 100 million players, unique players.
They went back to map 1, right? That was
the OG.
All those players.
Yep. And they said that was, I know they posted that was such a big success that they're going to kind of keep that in the rotation. But these new experiences, they're not like little, they're not little like side modes you'll play for 5 minutes and then go away from, right? It's like the full island in Lego Fortnite. They're even converting the popular Fortnite characters into Fortnite models, building in Lego form. The Fortnite Festival looks really, really cool. I think we've talked about many kind of shows, and people in the industry have talked about Guitar Hero and Rock Band and the memories with those things and those kind of coming back. So I think this is just really, really impressive. Even if you don't like Fortnite, you have to give it up to that development crew and kind of the leadership over there and what they continue to kind of innovate in the space, because it's impressive.
They keep pouring money back into Fortnite, and it keeps paying dividends for them. So I enjoy Fortnite because there is that sense of new all the time. I wish its storytelling was a little bit more cohesive and cogent, but I'm not sure that you can do all the things that they do with licensing and these editions if you had that as kind of one of your important things. So I accept Fortnite for what it is, and it's one of my favorite games to play, especially with the family. The girls love Fortnite.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I like Fortnite well enough. I really respect what they've done with live service. And they are the kings of live service, even though, their assignment with live service is pretty easy in terms of, it's a battle royale. So you don't have to make a ton of content. There's not a lot of pressure, aside from stuff you can sell. But
I think that's right, Travis. I think they have it easy now, but I mean, I do think that they carved out what easy looks like, even in the battle royale space. And they're the ones that had the most success with it.
For sure, they're innovators, and I don't think you get this far without getting people truly addicted, which means that you knocked it out of the park with your game design, right? And they've continually made improvements to that and upgrades to their game, and like as you said, investments that have really paid off. And some of the stuff I don't get, like a concert in a video game, doesn't sound like anything I would want to do, but they've been doing that in various games and VR experiences and stuff over the years. And so I get it that once you're deep into that culture, it just makes sense to spend more time there. And it is sort of becoming like Roblox, where it's going to contain its own games and all that sort of stuff, which is interesting and weird. And I'm sure will make even people even spend more time there, which is cool. But yeah, it's one of those holes that you kind of have to keep yourself from falling all the way into, because at a certain point, it would be the only game you play. And
Diablo 4.
Yeah, I do have Diablo 4 makes a little bit more sense to me, but I have trouble with that.
You like the game better. Like you like the core experience better. But
I like the core experience better.
And I do too.
The battle royale is not where I want to spend all my time, just like repeating that loop. It doesn't really. It's don't get me wrong, it's fun for a couple matches, but like if that was all I played, I feel like I'd be pretty drained.
I think the best thing Fortnite did was come up with those missions on the map and things where you don't care about the battle royale so much, and you just land and you go and you figure out how to hit all the mailboxes, and if you finish in the top 50, great. Yeah, you just have missions on the island. And I think it also had the second beneficial effect of having a lot of people not necessarily paying attention to the battle royale aspect, which makes it a little bit easier for folks that are interested in that. So it all kind of went together. And I think when they made those changes, I think it was chapter 2, that they really exploded in popularity. And it's certainly something that I could engage with more than just trying to get to number 1 all the time.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, Pyro says, is Epic trying to make Fortnite into a non-VR, the Oasis from like Ready Player One? So basically just a game platform rather than
Tim Sweeney's been aimed at metaverse for Fortnite longer than metaverse has been a term in the industry.
Yep. So this is an interesting way to do it. I think that if nothing else, like I guess the idea, like anything else, is if these games are as kind of fully featured as you expect. I mean, Rocket League, if you don't know, Rocket League has dozens of millions of players, continually, right? It's a very popular game. So you create something like a Rocket Racing within Fortnite, and you're logging technically into Fortnite to play Rocket Racing as a standalone experience. You start to go down that path for sure. Yeah.
Well, and their
Crazy.
biggest difficulty there will be, why play Fortnite Rocket League if you can play Rocket League, and those kinds of questions. It's one of the reasons why I'm more interested in the Lego combination here, because I think it fits well with what Fortnite does, and they had a cute little video.
Great.
But also seems different than I can play a different game in Fortnite. Lego Fortnite is still Fortnite. It's just Legoized.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, Ains, did you know that there's a Rocket League-like game in VR where you run around and you have a bow and arrow and you shoot a giant ball and the arrow knocks the ball different directions?
No, but that sounds amazing.
It's pretty dang cool. I forgot to tell you about that because I was thinking about you and your group that says Fortnite or Rocket League's a good game. But yeah, I was that is you should play that one.
What well, DM me. Yeah, I want to know more about that. Okay, cool. So that was yesterday. And so those games launched, like I said, 7th, 8th, 9th. You can check that out. Just go on YouTube. You can find the full thing if you want to watch it. And then we got the GTA tease, which inspired other teases in the same vein. So the kind of in order here. So tomorrow morning, and I don't even know what this is, but Halo.
Do you have these to bring up, Baines? I can put them on screen.
They're just pictures. I mean, you can if you want.
I mean, I think they're useful. I think when I saw this, cynic that I am, of course, I'm not. I'm an optimist. But I looked at these ads and said, this is really showing off the originality of the video game industry right here.
Well, you will appreciate this. I joked about Rockstar's influence, right? Just how when they do something, everyone follows. And like I had a typical Twitter response that you would expect, where someone said, I don't know why you would call that influence. It's simply a meme, and everyone's using it now. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to move on from that comment.
It's funny because it is, but it's also, they put a picture up. It doesn't have any meme qualities on its own. No. The rest of the industry made it a meme.
Exactly. Yes, but see, you get the point. So, so tomorrow morning, 343 and Xbox are teasing something for Halo Infinite, which, if you didn't know, Tuesday is the launch of their kind of end of the year updated Firefight returns. The popular PvE mode, PvP mode. So that returns, new equipment, quality of life stuff, whole bunch of updates. I won't bore you with Halo talk, but I had assumed when they teased this that this was simply going to be the trailer for that Firefight and whatever. But then like a couple hours later, they came out with the post about Firefight and the update separately. So now I think the question, the people who pay attention to this are asking is this trailer coming tomorrow something new, something different? So I guess we'll see. I honestly don't know. I had assumed it was the Firefight stuff, so we'll see. If it is just the Firefight trailer, it's going to be disappointing.
Is overhype on that stuff, right? Which is that I think you can get people thinking it's going to be more than it is. And I don't believe for 1 second that it's like campaign stuff. But you have people like floating that out in the internet.
People are floating that idea, and I would unless
with what
me
team?
and unless me and the people who really kind of dig into this stuff all the time are all completely wrong, which could happen, and I hope we are. Believe me, this is not anything campaign related, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's one of the big pitfalls of live service games is properly setting expectations with your audience and getting them to believe you when you say it. And companies that don't do it often face backlash, even when they do good things for their community, because they didn't properly set expectations. We might have talked about this pitfall before one of our many live service discussions, but I think it's one that some companies really overlook because they assume, if there's hype about the game, that's a good thing, right? We would never want to discourage that. And it's like, no, you need to discourage it. When it comes to live service, you have to, because if every month, every release is below expectations, even if you're doing good things, the audience won't feel good about it. And so you have to be like super clear with your communication with what stuff is going to include, and more importantly, what it's not going to include. And I think maybe they haven't done a perfect job at that.
Well, I mean, that's the concern. We don't know what their announcement is yet. So, I mean, yes, I think it'll be underwhelming, especially to the people that are hyping it up. But Halo's on a good path right now. And I do think communication-wise, I will, again, take the minute to talk up Blizzard and Diablo. I know people really don't like that first patch, but I love their, what do they call them? Campfire chats?
Fireside.
They go,
or campfire, yeah.
They go through like every little bit of everything. And set expectations. That's not always what you want, but they're really good at talking through what's going to happen in Diablo.
Agree.
They are, yeah. I've been covering all of those too, Hogue. So yeah, I think they do a great job there.
I don't read everything you write, Travis, because I can't. Your volume is too prolific.
There we go. Fair. That's a compliment. But yeah, no, I think they are crushing it when it comes to live service, and I think even I think that's what'll save. I think their game's going to continue to be huge. The fact that they've already announced their next expansion too. I mean, game's going to be big, man.
Oh yeah,
should be. It deserves it.
I continue rolling through the Season of Blood.
I do like that we shifted the week's announcements back to Diablo.
It's my fault. I just like talking about Diablo.
I appreciate it, Hogue, because then I don't feel as bad when I do that with Halo. You know, we just shift to our
found the Hitman. We found the. I mean, I'm the only one. I guess Destiny, but I only talk about it when you guys
think of
ask,
you as Remnant 2 references, Travis.
Yeah, you've been Remnant 2 this year. It was Destiny 2, but I think your sheer spite for that game at this point has shifted that conversation.
That's pretty. I mean, I wouldn't say that that's new. I've had a very strong love-hate relationship with Destiny for a very long time. One of the best and 10 of the worst games I've ever played.
So the next, of course, the monster in the room is GTA. So Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific, we get all they've labeled it is the first trailer for whatever the next GTA is. Just a reminder, nowhere officially have they called this GTA 6. It's just the first trailer. So they tweeted this out, single picture as Hogue reference. It's got 150 million views. So this is going to probably blow up on Tuesday morning, of course, and be interesting to see what they actually show here.
And I think people are going to be disappointed with whatever date, if any, is at the end of the trailer.
I don't think
I think it'll be a year, and I think that year will have a 5 in it.
I don't think we get a date at all. Do you? I think this will just be a highlight.
We get a year.
Travis says 5103.
I say a year. I think it'll show what they need to show, and then at the end it'll just say 2025.
Okay.
Which again, I always advise just add an increment. Assume 2026 if it just says 2025.
Yeah.
What do you think, Hogue? We get a year or no, or a date or no?
I think we're gonna get one of those currently being worked on notes at the end of the trailer. You know. Okay. Well,
we'll obviously talk about that next week. If you missed our show a few weeks ago, we talked a little bit about GTA and what we'd like to see from it. So we'll see. No one really knows what expecting. And
pain.
Sorry.
No. You said your prediction and left it empty, and I said pain.
Oh no, my prediction is not pain. No. My prediction is glory. And shut up, old man. My prediction is that it'll be called GTA Vice, and then the V and the I from Vice will change colors, and it'll be 6. That's a
pretty good prediction, actually. I like that. Just a reminder for those who aren't in the weeds on this stuff, right? This will be the first GTA since 3, so you're going back several generations at this point, that does not have one of the 2 Hauser brothers and does not have the lead writer from those games. So key leadership resources that built GTA 3, Vice 4, and 5 have not been involved with this iteration of the game.
San Andreas hardest hit, Ains.
Oh yeah, San Andreas. I remember that one. I think that's widely considered kind of
I love that.
Well, outside of 5 nowadays, but the favorite. But Vice was always my favorite, Vice City.
Oh no, dude. I mean, yeah, I'm from the area that game is supposed to take place in, San Andreas. I grew up. I feel like I actually grew up. This is so funny. I hear the street that intersected with the street I grew up on was called Grove Street. That's real.
Travis is a Grove Street boy.
I feel, dude, like I grew, like it feels so. I grew up in that world, but I love San Andreas. Such a cool game.
Yeah,
San Andreas was great.
There you go. So we'll see. Obviously, like I said, that's going to kind of blow the doors off on Tuesday. On Wednesday, if you're into this thing, you get the new Call of Duty major drop. So that's the new Warzone map. So which is obviously free to play. You don't have to have Modern Warfare 3 for that. You get the new season, all the additions of new maps coming to Modern Warfare 3, updates, blah, blah, blah. You know, Call of Duty's on this really strong cadence with content delivery. So if you're enjoying Modern Warfare 3, great. You get new content on Wednesday. Me personally, I haven't played Warzone in a while just because it's felt a little stale for me. I'm really looking forward to this new map. It's called Urzikstan. And, I'll be jumping back in. So, hope it's good.
Urzikstan's still not out, huh? I wrote a
No,
story
they've been talking about it for a while.
Time ago, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Comes out Wednesday. And then Thursday at 4:30 Pacific, which is hilarious. You know that nowhere on that site that I could find, he actually says what time the show starts. I had to Google it. The Game Awards starts at 4:30 Pacific, so 7:30 Eastern. And remember, we have our other bet that we did on every single category. We don't even know.
6th, Wednesday?
7th.
Oh, Thursday. Okay.
Yeah, Thursday. So that should be fun. We've had multiple companies now, including Xbox has told people to tune in, so they'll have some announcement. And I heard some news yesterday on a different thing I was recording that of what that is. Kind of interesting. And then Sega has also said that they have something new and big to show during the Game Awards of all companies. So I guess we'll see what the Game Awards brings us this year.
Sonic Frontiers 2.
Hey, you guys both like that game, right?
I love Sonic Frontiers.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
Oh, also, somebody in the comments mentioned this, and I want to second it, which is remember, whatever time you think the show starts, it actually starts earlier, and if you log on at 4:30, you will miss awards for the Game Awards show. Remember, because they always do stuff
like
in
a half hour
commercial
pre-show.
break. They're like, "Here's 8 awards," and you're like, "What? I missed those?" And it's never the ones you want. They don't do like best influencer or esports team. It's always like just like best indie game, and you're like, "What the hell? They did that during the toothpaste commercial? What the?"
It's not actually an award show. Yeah. It's a trailer show.
Yeah. Yep. And then, so we'll see. We'll talk about the bet and all the the winners next week. I expect a lot of going through that list again on Cast Co-op. Expect a lot of Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. But yeah, that should be fun. And also a reminder, which Rick just reminded me too, is you get the next Cyberpunk update this week as well, 2.1, which includes a surprisingly large amount of things. So even after 2.0, so good on them for that.
Ride the subway. Ride
the metro. It's what you've always wanted to do, right? A digital subway in a dystopian city, right?
Well, I mean, the truth is they had those signs and doors set up from the start, and so I think a lot of people just wanted it to be functional.
Yeah.
But
Ains, I already ride the subway in a dystopian city in real life.
Yeah. So anyway, that's this week, and we'll talk about all those things obviously next Sunday. But definitely an interesting week in terms of game content. And then of course, I'll jump over to this really quick since we're on it. Is we got 2 trailers for TV shows, gaming TV shows, yesterday actually. So I'll start with Fallout, which is going to be on Prime. So it's Amazon funded show from Jonathan Nolan.
The people that brought you The Boys in 2-day shipping in a nice little joke.
That was such a weird thing, yeah.
Trailer.
But Jonathan Nolan, who did Westworld, of course.
And perhaps more usefully, person of interest, based on at least the casting of Fallout.
This guy.
What?
I mean, that he's right.
He is right, I know.
He's going back to the well of actors. That's
I like Michael Emerson, but it's like, oh my God, all right.
So, Fallout, what'd you think of the trailer?
I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I had very positive vibes from the trailer. I think the only criticism I would have on kind of secondarily thinking about it is that it may be a little bit too bright and sterile. I had hoped for maybe a little bit more, I don't know, junkified.
Oh, you want it to be foggy.
I want it to be Fallout, right? And so I think it might be a little bit too bright. I don't love like some of the stuff with respect to the vault and like the Cyclops guy.
Oh, Oh, you gotta have stuff like that. You gotta have mutants.
I don't mind having mutants, but that the Cyclops guy is like behind a desk and
Yeah, he's
Are you saying Cyclops can't hold jobs, Hope?
yeah, he's the
Is that where
supervisor.
we're going?
What's the vault supervisor job called that you can?
well, why would a
Oh.
supervisor be? I think he is a vault supervisor, but why would he be a mutant?
Because
Again, are you saying
every
mutants
vault
cannot
has its own
become
story. Maybe
supervisors?
they were experimenting with mutant faces. We
Every
don't know.
vault has a story. Like in this one, we give mutants all the jobs before they exist.
Well, remember some vaults did experiments or were actually experiments by the government, and so we don't know what that vault's story is. It could have been that during their time in the vault that mutants were created as part of some weird social experiment the government was running.
Overseer, is that the word we're looking
The
for?
overseer, thank you.
That's it.
Yeah,
that is the word.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like the trailer. I am standoffish about Amazon's shows in general, so it'll have to show me something. But I thought the trailer was good.
Yeah,
I like that they threw out their accolade of working on The Boys and also 2-day shipping.
Yes,
that was the best
delight
joke
in
of the trailer, I
Yep.
think. Yeah.
Which is also noticeably not a part of the show, but
Yeah, but it does give you an idea of the overall tone, which I think is important.
Yeah, as I watched it, and you get the references right away, obviously from the games, but then it kind of went, to Hoke's point, it went goofy. And I told my wife, because we usually watch it, she's like, this looks all over the place. And I said, well, that's kind of Fallout, honestly. Like, I like that they have some of the goofy stuff in the trailer, because the show does have that post-apocalyptic, everything's dead and bad, yet whimsical tone to it at times. So, yeah, I like the trailer.
To show my seasoning, I think my favorite Fallouts are before Bethesda took over.
Yeah, you like the classic isometric one.
Yeah, the interplay games.
Yeah, the interplay. Yeah, I don't know what my favorite Fallout.
New Vegas, bro.
Yeah, New Vegas or 3. I liked them both. 4 didn't do it as much for me personally. So
yeah, Fallout 76.
But anyway,
easily. Honestly, it might be today. That game has really blown up. I don't know if you guys have
done a lot of stuff on it.
It's quite good now.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind actually going into that sometime soon. And they just announced their Atlantic City edition too. I saw the trailer for that. I think that's April 12th. I don't have it up in front of me. Someone can correct me, but I'm pretty sure they said April 12th for Fallout show on Prime. And then, gentlemen, we got the teaser for season 2 of Halo. Coming February 8th. And it is, if you didn't know, new showrunner. So new writers for this second season compared to the first. I don't know.
I wonder why.
Well, the crazy thing. So the crazy thing with Halo, right, is from a commercial perspective, it from everything they've said, it was extremely successful. But if you talk to people like us, especially a lot of the people like me who really are into Halo, we've had this discussion, right? It just wasn't good. So I don't know. The trailer, it's like a teaser, minute 20 or something of this one, has some cool references in it. Looks like it could be building better than season 1. But it's definitely a wait and see for me. I'm excited to watch it, but God, please be better than season 1.
I've had some luck this year with showrunner changes. So I really liked Loki season 2 with a new showrunner. I really liked Picard season 3 with a new showrunner. So I'm willing to give it a try, but I couldn't last through even all of season 1 in Halo. So
okay. Here's my personal take on this. When I first started watching season 1, like Hogue, I felt like I wasn't going to get through it, and I stopped watching it for a while. But then somebody told me about one of the later episodes, and it was so bad that I said, okay, well, I have to see that. And so I picked up where I left off. I started watching it, and indeed, in the second half of season 1, it was so bad that suddenly my interest was renewed. I will only be interested in season 2 if they can keep up that level of horrible. If they are as bad or worse, which I will accept, than season 1, you can count me in. But if they go for it all in the other direction of quality or ill-advised in, maybe making Master Chief wear shorts or something, if they bring us back to the days where he was fully clothed, I'm out. All right. This isn't what the
Not if
fans
they
who
put
got you this far.
Massachusetts in power
Look,
armor, I'm out.
Hogue says you dance with the one who brung you. Okay. And the one who brung you here was a whole bunch of fans who wanted to see Master Cheeks butt naked, crying, overly emotional, and causing genocides of various planets by having sex with spies and making Cortana watch. This is what got you here. Okay. And so stick to your guns, be brave. Okay. And don't try to do any of that writing shit. I don't want to hear it. Okay.
Apologies for talking over you, Travis. That's my fault. I do want to say I agree with Travis in that I think there's always a risk of if you're pleasantly bad at something that you try to improve and you wind up in like the pit of mediocrity. Like every CW show that's canceled is in this kind of like, I don't remember what happened. Like you just got a Men in Black laser pointed at you. That is a risk if you try to improve from what I had experienced in Halo to begin with. And I do think, Ains, that Paramount was somewhat happy with Halo when it launched. It was one of the first game adaptations of last year. But when by the time Last of Us comes out and they realize that they really didn't do very well, I think all of that changes in terms of what's happening with respect to their shows. Now, all these streaming services have money problems. All of them have issues with content delivery. And who knows whether they'll be happy with what happens in Halo Season 2. But I got to believe they're going to go a different direction, Travis. So apologies there.
Well, I'm holding out hope because I believe in this team. You know, nobody believed in them in Season 1. And they showed up for the fans that want something terrible. And I think I mean, call me crazy, but I have a little bit of hope that they won't forget the little man, right? that watched this comedy grow into its own. And I think
what's funny
important.
about the Season 2 trailer is it looks like what you'd expect from Halo to me, right? It looks closer to, all right, they're gonna tell Reach, give or take. And that's what I think everybody expected. Nobody expected Season 1.
I expect Reach around. That's what I want. Okay? I want the fall of that.
If that's the name of the episode where they cover Reach, I will be right there with you, Travis. That'll be a choice.
Thank you. I'm into it, guys. This is what we need.
What's funny is I
have no comment.
I really like.
I have no comment from me.
I've been hurt already. I've been hurt enough.
How are we gonna traumatize Cortana this season? What are we gonna make her see?
if you look, they show Cortana real briefly in this one, and she looks different. Yeah. So like, yeah,
I mean that is in line with the tradition of Halo, though. Her looking different every single, yeah.
Well, that's more due to the technology. Like she, looked better and better, I guess, as time went on.
Brand new actress.
No, they changed. She comments on it in the book. She says that like she changes her appearance and that she appears as a naked woman because she thinks that she finds it unsettles the people she's working with, and she likes that. All of the AI appear as what they appear like for a reason. They have like personality quirks. So, but yeah, I hope we make Court. What are we going to make her watch this time? Maybe Arbiter, gets into it with a brute. Maybe we could show her that, make her watch that. I don't know, man. What are we gonna do this season, boys? Put me in charge of that show. I'll make season 3.
My god. All right. So quick diversion here for Hogue. So apparently, I guess I don't pay attention to this stuff, Hogue, but Michigan #1 playing Bama in, I presume, what would be a bowl game.
Yes, it would be in fact a bowl
college
game.
Football makes no sense. Come on,
championship.
It makes no sense.
Yeah. So they let Bama in, huh? I don't know who got the other picks because I'm not watching the.
Someone said I don't know, and I don't want to distract us too much here, but someone said that FSU did not make it. Whatever
that's insanity. That is the SEC freaking using their powers for evil, because Florida State is an undefeated Power 5 conference champion.
Unless I misread that comment, I don't know. But
no, they were one of the ones that they could have kicked off if the committee were deciding not based on what the actual results of the college football games were.
And I say again, college football makes no sense.
Oh, it doesn't.
So, all right. Well, anyway, good luck to your team there, my friend.
Yeah, we
Sounds like
want
that'll be a
Bama.
big one.
We got him.
So
Let's go.
cool. Okay. So boys, why don't we jump over? Just want to talk a little bit about remakes and remasters. And Googleman kind of topped us off. Is what I was saying at the top of the show. Talking about, basically what I wanted to pose to you guys is we live in a day now in this industry where remakes and remasters are just part of it. We see remakes and remasters in various forms pretty much every week releasing. They're nominated for games of the year, as we joke about, all the way to like the most lazy remakes or remasters, excuse me, for some other IPs. Just this year, we've seen Resident Evil 4 remake, Super Mario RPG, GoldenEye, Alan Wake remastered, Metal Gear Solid has come back. And I'm sure the list is much, much longer than that. Already for next year, we talk about what's coming in 2024. We know we have Persona 3 Reloaded, or maybe that's coming even before the end of the year. Final Fantasy 7, of course, we mentioned earlier, Rebirth, Silent Hill 2, Splinter Cell remake, Max Payne 1 and 2, CDPR is remaking The Witcher 1. So
that one's overdue.
Yeah. So, that's kind of what I want to get into. So I know video games are kind of unique in the sense of technology can make these things better, right? Because it's not like a movie where it's kind of more static, or music where it's kind of more static. A game is directly impacted by the technology at the time. And that can directly impact the gameplay experience, right? The game design even, and all sorts of different aspects, right? So I guess from your perspective, as you look across the industry and we see so many of these remasters, remakes on a yearly basis now, like what personally do you guys like to see? Like, do you like when they do, like, let's take the GoldenEye remaster, right? It wasn't a remake. They basically took classic GoldenEye, cleaned it up a little bit, sharpened it up a little bit, and released it. And it's like that game, if you go back and play GoldenEye, it's not a great game nowadays, right? It's got a lot of antiquated kind of design aesthetics. Yeah, I mean, well, but that's a different debate. But, then you get all the way up to things like, say, probably, the modern Resident Evil remakes, or Demon Souls, maybe a good example here, where you take something that's, kind of 15, 20 years plus old, and you really, really from the ground up keep the core of what made the game good, but make it a modern experience. So do you think, like, how much do you like these things? How much effort do you think our development staff within the industry and studios spend on this? And let me preface the conversation real quick before. We know that financially, it's always going to be driven by revenue, right? These decisions are made due to financial. If they think it's going to make them money and they can do it, they'll do it. Let's put that aside. I'm talking more of personal opinions here.
Yeah, I can start. I think the main thing that I care about, I actually don't care about the technology that much.
Okay.
Sometimes it's interesting to see, like, oh, cool, now we know what Resident Evil 4 would have looked like if it was made on today's console or today's hardware, because they can redo all the graphics and stuff. But as you know, I've never been afraid to play older games, and to me, the bad graphics or frame rates or whatever don't bother me, because a good game is a good game as far as I'm concerned. I played Flashback for the first time this year. You know what I mean? Like, that game is old as heck, and you guys all knew about it, and I'd never heard of it until I played it this year. And I think it still holds up. The thing I care about when it comes to re-releases is game preservation. If a game is hard to play and you can re-release it on today's tech or today's platforms, to me, that is like worth releasing it. I just don't think that they should be winning awards. I don't think we should be considering these our big flagship AAA games, but there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, all the other Mass Effects are on an old console and you have to play 3 discs. Let's make it a single digital package and make it look a little bit better. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think it's especially true with games like GoldenEye, where, getting out an N64 and hooking up all that stuff might not really be an option, or hooking up a CRTV, or, all that stuff. So for me, it's game preservation. Resident Evil 4 Remake, I mean, you can play Resident Evil 4 on the current gen consoles already, because you can play the old version. And so that one is a little bit less exciting and less vital to me. Last of Us 2 is laughably, not necessary. It's just sort of like, why is anybody spending their time making this? But other games where you legit can't really find a way to play them, I think it's a great idea to put those. I mean, I want to be able to play every game on my PlayStation or Xbox that I can't today play. And so for remakes for that, happy. Anything else, remaking a game I've already played a couple years ago, or a game that I can play in its original form on the current consoles, I don't really, I that's the same thing with Dead Space. Like, you can play the original Dead Space right now, right, on any of the platforms, and so it feels a little bit weird to me to remake it, but that's just me. I'm maybe I'm in the minority by being somebody who isn't really bothered by like the look of Dead Space or Resident Evil 4 right now, because to me it's just like, all right, it looks that way because it was older, but the game still holds up, so it doesn't really matter to me. But I do care about game preservation, and I think that to me that's the only really major benefit of these re-releases and remakes and all that stuff.
Well, and I'm not so magnanimous on my side. I'm not worried as much about archiving the video games, but I do think that if we're looking at reasons why remakes work or that I'm happy about them, one of them is that it's not easy for me to access the game. I might have the console, I might have the cartridge, but as Travis rightly says, I can't hook it up easily. I don't have a monitor that takes the AV cords or whatever it might be. So I do think crossing the generational tech divides there is useful. And I think this year, I think of it as Super Mario RPG, right? I owned that game. I had a Super Nintendo. I might be able to put that together if I spend a lot of time on it, but it's much more convenient to play it on the Switch with a graphical change. I'm not entirely sold on it being an upgrade, and I'm not entirely sold on Super Mario RPG overall, but those are the kinds of games that I like to see show up, where they were good, they were known for a time, they have something worth playing through, and it wasn't easy to access them without that type of port or bring over to the modern generation. The other thing I do like is if it's long enough in tech, right? So I do enjoy seeing the world of Final Fantasy VII in the remake and rebirth. I would prefer it if it were actually a remake of Final Fantasy VII, but they wanted to do something new and different with it. I still enjoy the new games, so that's okay. And they wanted to sell it to people like me who wanted to see the Final Fantasy VII world as a remake. So I like that project, even if I would have gone a different direction with it. Last of Us Part 2, you can play right now on your PlayStation 5 at 60 frames per second. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. Those kinds of things I don't love. I agree with you, Ains, that GoldenEye is one that I kind of like that it exists, but it is separated enough in gameplay and modern conveniences that I don't find myself accessing it or wanting to play it now in 2023. So that might have been one that maybe in the early stages you look at going a different direction with, but they didn't. So I'm glad for people that want to have it on this system, same as Super Mario RPG, but I don't find it very compelling now today. So I think it's really a difference of what your remake does, whether it adds an additional experience, where I will always be happy with it, as in terms of value. I'm not saying that your design will be improving anything. I don't think Dead Space Remake actually adds a lot to Dead Space. I was perfectly happy playing Dead Space on like the Xbox backward compatibility. I think they have Dead Space.
Yep, Xbox 360. It's on the EA subscription service too. So I think you can play it anywhere you can get that.
So I don't find that as terribly useful, but I also don't find even the ones where they kind of Sony baked in the expansions, right? I found that I really like Ghost of Tsushima. I haven't actually played through the director's cut of that because it didn't add that much to me. I haven't played through the director's cut of Death Stranding because I liked it on the PlayStation 4. And those are things that I probably will get to at some point. But overall, because they aren't that compelling to me, I would rather have those resources in video game development spent on making a new experience.
Yeah. I think you touched on two things there I wanted to ask about too. So it's a good segue. So the first is around Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because I think, or the trilogy, if you will, that they're turning it. Yeah. Because I think that's a really interesting one, because if you go forward 20 years, right, and look back at video game history, you're going to have Final Fantasy VII, the original, as a completely different game than this Final Fantasy VII series that released. Not completely different, but you know what I mean, different enough.
Pretty different.
Yeah. So and they've said that a lot of this is new story, and I just find that really interesting, even within the remake and remaster conversation, that they've took an existing game, the kind of core of it, and then said we're going to build a new game on top of it, if you will. We're going to expand it into a new experience. And I think that's kind of interesting. Obviously, it seems to be relatively popular. You know, it's selling well and people love
it. It's a great
it. So
game, right? Like first and foremost, when we have this conversation, the choices they made to bring a real-time / turn-based combat system into Final Fantasy VII, to put it over the shoulder, to do all the things that we expect from modern games, were all good choices. And when I say that I want it to be Final Fantasy VII, that's really narrative and story and plot more than the changes they made to make it a modern video game. I think everything that they decided there was brilliant. The story is where I have my qualms, but what they actually brought from 1997 into, I don't know the release year of Final Fantasy Remake, honestly, 2018, maybe 2019.
I don't know, honestly.
Is great. Like I enjoy that. And you knew that from the demo, right? When you're doing the bomb run, just like you did the demo back in the 90s, it works as the Final Fantasy VII experience, even though it's different. But actually changing the story and making it a quasi sequel to Final Fantasy VII is maybe not what I would have done with the IP. But I'm glad that it exists. And I don't think anybody could say that if they've already played Final Fantasy VII, they've played Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's not the same kind of thing as with Dead Space or Last of Us.
Yeah. I mean, I think remakes are, it's weird because some of them are like Resident Evil 4 Remake, which, like, if you play Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 4 Remake, you've played the same game. Like they are extremely similar. But if you play Resident Evil or Final Fantasy VII Remake, it feels like more like the movie industry's definition of a remake, right? Like the old 1950s Mummy versus the one with Brendan Fraser versus the one with Tom Cruise. You know what I mean? Like those are all very, very, very different movies, but they are remakes of the same original idea or script or whatever, right? And so I think to me, there just seems like there needs to be more clarity when people use the word remake, because I think in the games industry, remake is used to describe when they're like redoing the engine or they're like reprogramming some stuff, like trying to make the game from the ground up versus just taking the same game and giving it some new textures or whatever. I don't know that separation is adequate now that we have a third definition of remake, which means you take the ideas and you basically just make a different game. Like the goal isn't even to replicate the original. It's just to take the idea and do something different. And so it almost seems like there should be remaster, something in between remake, and then the full remake, like you're getting with Final Fantasy VII. Like it's almost like a reimagining of the game.
That's probably the right word.
Yeah. And so it seems to me like there's three different types. And I kind of am, to Hoag's point, like if you're going to reimagine the game like Final Fantasy VII, you're, in my mind, making a different game. And so calling it a remake almost makes it seem like less than it is, because Final Fantasy, like I think they did trick some of us, maybe not on purpose, but it is essentially a different game. They also did that with the Stanley Parable.
Oh, I love Stanley Parable 2, which is not called Stanley Parable 2.
It's not called Stanley Parable 2, but they also kind of tricked us on that one. It's a sequel disguised as a re-release of the original game, which is crazy.
It's right up what they're doing with that game, but like the stupidest marketing ever. But I love it.
Yeah, it is pretty bad marketing, but I think that's also part of the joke of the game. Yep. You can't call it 2. But yeah, I think for me, I'm okay with people making new games because that is legit new content. And if you're making a reimagining of an original game, I think that's fine. I'm less enthusiastic about remakes and remasters unless, like Hoag and I were talking about earlier, there's some sort of like game preservation or ease of access reason to put it on this new platform. But obviously that's not where I want people to spend their time. Like I like new ideas and new games and new stuff. And even a reimagining of an old game is less exciting, right? And I feel the same way about movies. If they said they were making a 4th Mummy movie, I'd be like, well, that's great, but I would have loved a completely different idea, probably better if you could come up with one. So I think I always temper my excitement when it's a remake or a remaster.
I think that's right. Like I think you referenced Demon Souls, Ains.
Yeah,
that is a technological leap, and Demon Souls PlayStation 5 is still one of the best uses of the PlayStation 5 technology, I think.
Also, the PS3 version is increasingly hard to play, and the online didn't work for a long time. So there was a legit like technological reason to do the 5 so that you can actually play it in co-op and do those sorts of things.
All good reasons.
Yeah,
but
all
is
good reasons.
that product as exciting as Demon Souls 2 would have been?
Nope.
No.
Play Elden Ring.
I'm on board to the Fallen now.
Elden Ring is his remnant too, right?
Yeah, it is. No, all very good points, and I think we may see something similar with Silent Hill 2 from Bloober Team as well, because if you read kind of their write-ups around what they're doing, it definitely feels like they could be going down the reimagining route, right, versus what was the original Silent Hill 2, which is considered by many, including myself, to be one of the greatest horror games ever made. So, like,
God,
I think you start. Sorry?
I wish I liked Bloober Team. I don't trust them with that project at all.
Well, I think that's the concern, right? Is because you do get into the area. Let's say, for example, with Final Fantasy VII. Now, it seems to be, like I said, widely celebrated and loved. So that's not the reference I'm making. But let's say for a second it wasn't. Let's say for a second they start to play around with that story and start to rebuild this game into this trilogy, but they take it in a direction for whatever reason that people don't love. And now you've got this product on the market. Looking back on it, again, going into the future and looking back, you've got this product on the market labeled as Final Fantasy VII, the second series, which is completely different than the original and would be looked at as kind of like a negative mark, which could happen with Silent Hill 2. We don't know, or any other project for that matter. I think it's just it's a fine line you have to walk as a developer. And I think as games get older, right, you start to get 20 years down the line or more, the people, maybe the talent, maybe the directors or the writers or whoever it may be that kind of knew the reasons why they did things in the original IP or whatever the game was when it was first made, may not be around, right, to kind of consult or help on these remakes. And it may kind of take in a form that fans of the original or people that find the original beloved, whatever it may be, may not really enjoy. And I think that's a dangerous type of thing too. Not that that doesn't happen in movies or, other industries as well, but
that can be part of the story. But I think some of the most successful remakes or remasters have been with essentially teams that specialize in doing that, whether it's Blue Point or I remember the Sly Cooper trilogy was remastered, and then a fourth Sly Cooper game came out from a completely different team, and I thought those actually turned out really well. So I think that there's actually value in new eyes and new perspectives on old IP. I would love to see that kind of commingle more. And I think we'd get better, cooler stuff. I love Crash 4. I really enjoyed Sly Cooper 4. And I think you can get new experiences. I just wish we would spend less resources, making another Last of Us Part 2. But I'm not saying it's a bad revenue choice.
Well, don't worry, Hoga. As the new president of PlayStation, there'll be plenty of Sly Cooper in your future. So,
yes, I always take with a grain of salt with anybody that says, oh, there'll be new Sly Cooper in the future, or Banjo fans, we hear you. It's like, look, I don't think that you're silly on these things. I don't think that you're ignoring that people have said that they like these things. But when you go and you look at the accountants and they say, yes, there's 3 loud people on Twitter, or Travis that wants X, and then they say, okay, well, then we'll make Gears of War 18 or whatever. Right.
Hey,
so I don't think Phil Spencer is ignoring you Banjo-Kazooie fans. I just don't think that you should be holding out for Banjo anytime soon.
Well,
I don't like you today, Hogue. I don't like you today.
I think there's always a chance to reinvent a well-known mascot to make him relevant for the new generation, while also giving nostalgic fans a chance to do it. And I think that is where it becomes viable. So
when you see Banjo in Fortnite, I will agree that something's happening.
You saw him in Smash Bros. Smash Bros is a pretty damn big game.
Yeah, it's true. You're not wrong.
Banjo.
I have hope. I hope he comes back and it's a card game. Let's go. Yeah.
Travis, the only person in the country rooting for Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts 2.
Nuts and Bolts was ahead of its time, y'all. It was so
a good game.
It is a great game. I think I have every achievement in that game. Like, I played the crap out of that game.
It's not what core Banjo fans wanted. That's all.
That doesn't matter.
I'm just saying that we all know that's the reason. Like,
all core Banjo fans are already dead. Okay, that was 200 years ago.
Relax.
All right.
Relax. I literally sold that game at Electronics Boutique. Come on now.
No, you
when
didn't.
He was 37.
I did. No, I did.
What?
EB had those VCRs that ran the things, and it had a Banjo-Kazooie tape that had
Wow.
a 3-minute trailer that ran 30 times an hour or whatever.
How many
Lucky
Prussian
you.
francs did a copy of Banjo-Kazooie cost?
Oh, you are too much today, Travis.
Taking those shillings. So I said there were 2 points you made there. I wanted to jump back to, and now I forget what the second point was about the
So do I.
remaster conversation.
I'm sure it was good. I'm sure Travis would have had no commentary on it.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I never have opinions on anything, guys. I'm just a chill dude. I'm a chill guy.
Chill guy, just hanging out, man. Just hanging out. Someone in the chat asked about Xbox's kind of game preservation attempt with, you know, their modern kind of emulation. And I think, in my opinion, and tell me what you guys think, but in my opinion, especially for the console side where it's more challenging, it's kind of the gold standard.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that you can play 4 generations, or all, I should say, all Xbox generations of their games to some degree. And they just figured out a way to kind of lightly, what I would call, remaster them, right? You get better resolution, you get better frame rate. Sometimes they add things like HDR, right, to give it a little more pop in the color space.
Red Dead Redemption is still best on Xbox backward compatibility, as is Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think that like, I'd like to see more of that, right? I'd like to see more of companies investing in products where you don't have to go out. And I think, not to pick on Nintendo, but I think Nintendo does this poorly, where they'll sell you the same game 15 times. Whereas, you know, you can just kind of, I can literally put in an original Xbox disc. Like, I can go play Morrowind on my Xbox Series X right now. I have, you know, I had it installed. And I think that, and KOTOR for that matter, we're talking about the Knights of the Old Republic remake. You can play that at a higher resolution on your Series X or Series S if you download it.
Nice.
And I think that is, you know, that's worth shouting out. And I'd like to see more of that from the big players in the industry.
I will just say that I can play a game that would never get remade, remastered, or ported in any sense, because it not only didn't do well commercially, but I don't think the team that made it even exists anymore. And frankly, I don't know who owns the rights to it anymore, which is one of my favorite turn-based RPGs, Gladius. It's an original Xbox game, LucasArts. I can play that game. I can play that game right now. And I actually rebought it digitally. I still own the disc, but I bought it digitally just so, you know, ease of access and all that. And I also, because I don't know who's getting the money, but they deserve an extra $10 or whatever. Yeah, like the fact that I can play that game, you know, that's.
Yeah, you can play Gladius, awesome. You can play Lost Odyssey, you can play all sorts of games.
Yeah,
I
still play Lost Odyssey, one of my favorites.
I think it's one of the best advantages of Microsoft being a software first company is they figured that out, and they put in the investment to actually go and have to tweak various of these executables for their emulation engine and get approval from the publishers, right? Like, they went through the legal steps necessary to do this somewhat difficult thing, seemingly purely to make it a more robust ecosystem to compete with, obviously, PlayStation and Nintendo. Yes. I would love to see that from all the console providers. I don't think you're ever going to see that from Nintendo, because they are the Disney of video games. They like the vault. They like to bring things back up to whatever standard they have right then and sell it to you again.
I'm actually of the opposite opinion. I think Nintendo's era of being able to resell you things is starting to become kind of it's sort of unacceptable in today's ecosystem. And I think they're realizing that, and you kind of see it in their subscription service, and they're giving you access to all those portfolios. I think the era of them being able to make money off of reselling the same stuff is coming to an end. And I think they know that it's like the time where that was socially acceptable is sort of over. Like, consumers aren't really going to go for that sort of thing anymore. Now they're just going to sell you amiibos.
What I was going to say was that I agree with you on this, and that I think what we've got right now in the Switch generation is a specific moment in time where Nintendo had basically its worst console and its best console back to back. And so a lot of what you see dragging forward into the Switch are Wii U failures, and that is going to go away with whatever the Super Switch or Switch 2 is, because people all had a Switch. Yeah. So you are probably going to see a translation between those generations, and you're not going to see this same kind of movement. But I think Nintendo is always going to believe pretty fervently in the vault system of its intellectual property. Right, I don't think you're going to see a Super Mario Odyssey remaster on the Switch 2, like you see Last of Us Part 2 on the PlayStation 5. But I do think you're right that you're also not going to see a bunch of Switch games come over because they were deemed failures at the Switch level. So I think Nintendo ultimately is going to continue operating like Nintendo does, slightly out of step with the rest of the industry, but maintaining its value and its IP by holding on to things and only bringing them over when they think there's a value to it.
I think they'll have a slightly modified model where you can play pretty much all of the backlog going back to the original Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, all the first party stuff that you love and that they still have the rights to will be on those digital platforms. And I think the only time you'll get them reselling you that stuff to you is when they've actually done something, right? Like if they make a Super Mario RPG where there's like actual money in a team that went into developing something and it's sort of a different game, it's its own thing, I think they'll charge you for that. But I think the days of them being like, hey, it's the same Super Nintendo game, now we're going to sell it to you on the Wii and then on the Wii U and then on the Switch, and those are all separate stores and you have to buy it 3 times, I think that's done. I think they finally added a second potato to their servers, and now are at the point in their development where they're going to stop doing that to people. And I think it's a response to consumer demand. I think people were just like hitting them hard enough about it, especially when you see what their competitors are doing, that it just wasn't viable. Don't get me wrong. I think if it weren't for Xbox and PlayStation, they probably would be content to do that forever. And it probably would work for them until those consumers became old enough to where, they weren't in the marketplace anymore.
Well, I think you're going to see Nintendo being weird. I mean, I think they do fun stuff with their remixes, right? F-Zero 99, some of the stuff they did with like the Mario celebrations where they had like the little challenges and 3-minute loads on the Wii U. I would love to see more of them just doing things with their IP. And Ains, can I grab the super chat because I think it's funny and it calls out lawyer math?
Yeah, we can catch up on them. Go for it.
So this is Britt Cormier. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And Hogue saying 3-minute trailer that played 30 times an hour. No wonder lawyers can charge for 28 hours in a day. Okay. Look, first of all, my invoices are very fair. I'm a very fair lawyer and biller, but my math is awful. And certainly 3-minute trailers do not fit 30 times in an hour. So I appreciate you calling me out on that, Britt.
It's a good super chat. Let me catch up on the other ones while we're at it. By the way, Don Lionheart with the $2 super chat. Hello all. Not much to say today. Hope all is well. Thank you, thank you, Hogue. Thank you, Don. Yes, doing well. Doing well, Don.
No, I appreciate it, Don. And yeah, I think so far the camera's holding out. Always knock on wood if you got any around you, folks. But I think we're doing okay today. And this speaks well for the future on my channel. So hopefully we will have ironed out all our problems.
There you go.
In life, in general.
All of them. Everything's fixed. We're
all
good.
The problems have been fixed.
All the problems are gone. We did it here, boys. We did it. Don, thank you. Bizzle now, $10 super chat. I wanted a Final Fantasy VII remake as well, but not as an action game. Now that I've played it, though, I'm interested to see where they're taking the story. So Bizzle, he is a diehard Final Fantasy VII fan, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bizzle. That's like your favorite game of all time. So yeah, those are the type of people I'm kind of interested when you see these kind of full-on reimaginings to
and
Travis's point.
I think Final Fantasy VII is a hybrid, right? It's not an action game. Certainly, if you put Final Fantasy VII Remake next to Final Fantasy 16, you would see the differences there. But I certainly understand people not wanting that kind of direct control, even at the Final Fantasy VII Remake level. I personally just think for retaining the feel of Final Fantasy VII within a modern direct control landscape, that battle system in Final Fantasy VII Remake is, I think, the best Square has ever done. Including Final Fantasy 16. I think 7 Remake is better.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. I haven't played. It's not my game, but a lot of positivity around it. So, Bizzle. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. All right. Well, anything else you want to touch on with the remaster remake conversation? It's going to be interesting to see, I guess, what we get next year. Obviously, these aren't going to slow down. I think especially from a remaster perspective, it feels like, they're financially viable for companies. And so we'll continue to see it. But I do want to also, we talked about Xbox. I do just want to shout out, I did enjoy, even though it's kind of behind a subscription service to a degree, I do enjoy that PlayStation is using their cloud streaming technology to kind of bring back some of the classics on the PlayStation side as well. So you have those PS1 classics, PS2 classics, etc. So to Travis's earlier point,
I've gotten to play a lot of
play those games. Yeah, being able to play those games is cool, right? Except making them more accessible in today's world, which is awesome.
So. It is funny when you go back to a game that you really loved, like a Siphon Filter, and you're like, whoa, these controls, my goodness.
PS1 era is rough. Yeah, very
specific type of games. Yeah.
Yeah.
I fall back into them pretty quick though. I don't know. I'm not really fussy about that stuff.
I love Siphon Filter, and it is a difficult ask to go back to those games. I am happy that they're on my PlayStation 5, but
yeah,
it's a different era.
I think that's why the 16-bit era is so successful to me, or so memorable, I should say, maybe, because you can go back to those games, in my opinion, a lot easier than you can the early 3D stuff.
Well, look at the digital remasters for Final Fantasy. Those all turned out great, I think, and they do make changes to the video games in important ways to modernize them. But they survive the test of time because they are kind of very simple, formulaic ways to present world and battling in a way that, when you're talking about the PlayStation 1 era, it's developers trying to figure out how 3D best is controlled.
Yep.
Especially in early PlayStation 1 without a joystick. So
yeah,
I love Siphon Filter. I will continue to advocate for Siphon Filter, but when you do download the I guess it's really just a port onto the PlayStation 5, you will say, oh my God, I don't remember it feeling this way. So
yeah, I think people
broader, you asked for our final comments on the remake thing. I think the thing I would say is, especially based on this conversation, if you can't tell, I think remakes and remasters and reimaginings, whatever you want to call them, I think is too broad a category to have a generalized rule on good, bad, or otherwise. So I really think it's a case-by-case kind of thing. How long has it been? What are they adding to this particular pie when they try to sell it to you? What is the price of that? How are they trying to sell it to you? I think it's worthwhile to note that as much as we dog on The Last of Us Part 2, they are offering it for $10 to the people that own Last of Us Part 2 already, which I think is good. Obviously, I think some of the stuff Xbox does is a little bit better when you talk about free upgrades to Red Dead Redemption or what have you, but $10 is different than $70, obviously.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out that this wasn't much of a debate. And I think that goes to show that like gamers kind of agree on this stuff. That's just my general perspective, is I don't see a whole bunch of like, there's like minor disagreements of like, oh, well, I wasn't as interested in that. That kind of comes down to personal taste. But I think everybody agrees on the core value of like, we want to be able to play games that we liked wherever we are on our new stuff. And I think the industry has embraced that largely, even though not all the platform holders do it great. Like they all understand that it's a value that they want to achieve. And then, in some cases when a game's really old, we want to play a version of it as we remember it in our mind's eye, which is not necessarily reflective of reality. And sometimes that calls for a remake or remaster. That's not my preferred way to play games. I don't like to play stuff I already played, even if it's got a facelift. But I understand that need, and it doesn't like bother me that we occasionally get that. It's just not as exciting. Yeah, it's good.
I mean, I think earlier you said Resident Evil 4, for instance, is basically the same game. And I agree with you in terms of they caught the feel of Resident Evil 4 and the basic structure of what you're doing within the game, but it is definitely different, and it's made modern changes to like some of the way the geography works and how the game progresses in a way that's just modernized. It just feels like, yep, that's the Resident Evil 4 that I played, even if you never did X, Y, or Z back in the GameCube era. So I think that's a remaster that I give a lot of crap to Ains for, and I don't want to see it up for Game of the Year, but it isn't just a
Neither did I.
A repaint of exactly what's
Ains didn't want to see it on the Game of Year list either. He was just so pessimistic in the voting, and that's why he tied for first place with all three of you. Stupid. It was one game off. All right. Anyway,
and you found a new roguelike that you love. So everybody,
no, I did not. But yeah, my point is just, I really like that this is one area that I think brings the community together, which is that we're all gamers, we're all consumers in the same way. And I think we understand this. And I think developers and publishers are getting on the same page as us over time. I think they're kind of getting it as well. And sometimes there are cash grabs out there. I think Last of Us 2 remaster is probably a pretty big cash grab, but we all get what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and you know it when you see it, right? It's just like you said, case by case basis, Hogue. Like when you see a remaster remake, your gut reaction is you kind of know it, and even if it's a game that ends up not being as good as you remember it, like maybe GoldenEye, it is cool that those games are playable on modern places that people play games. And game preservation is one of those issues that I think is picking up momentum, but we have so far to go before I feel safe with the fact that I got to
there's already tens of thousands of games that are kind of lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
they're just gone.
There's so many. I was two things real quick. I would say on the Resident Evil conversation, it's kind of funny because if you missed it this week, they basically Capcom confirmed there's more coming. So the Resident Evil remake train is not slowing down. Which,
Code
given
Veronica.
the success of
Capcom, I know you're watching. Code Veronica.
Yeah,
Resident Evil 5.
No, Code Veronica.
I want to punch a boulder
in 4K.
In 4K. Let me punch that boulder into some lava, y'all.
The other thing you brought up, Hogue, which I often forget, and I think especially some young people may not even really know, is that there were 2 years of the PlayStation 1 era with 3D games that had a D-pad only, D-pad and buttons, and you used to use the L1 and R1 buttons to move the camera, kind of rotate it or what have you. Is a very different era. The N64, and Mario 64 with launch, of course, kind of rethought that process, and PlayStation quickly followed suit. But it's kind of interesting to think there were 3D games without a single thumbstick for a couple years,
Yep. Then a 1 joystick era, and then the 2 joystick era.
Exactly. Yep. It's kind of funny.
Soon the 3 joystick era, which I am excited for personally. I think we're gonna have a real go of that.
I'll have to go to more occupational therapy for a 3rd joystick.
Yeah. Well, look, if you don't have room in your life for a 3rd joystick, you just need to let more joy into your life, because that's what the stick's for. You channel your joy through it.
It provides joy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm moving on from that one. So we're talking about game preservation, and it brings up. I'm going to go ahead and segue over to this announcement from PlayStation that came out this week. That as of December 31st, I believe, a bunch of the content in their movie and show department that you may have purchased digitally that may be in your library today will be removed. So we get back to this kind of digital licensing conversation. Now, I'm not bringing it up to have a digital/physical debate, but rather more from the presence. And I know, Hogue, you said people reached out to you about this, but it does beg the question of how do we move into the future? And I'm with you guys that digital is the future, right? I know I'm antiquated with my physical but I think we still haven't kind of firmly worked out fully how that's going to work long term, right, for years and decades to come, in terms of what ownership means. And we joke all the times around, you don't really own that, which is not really a joke, it's a fact. But I think this is another example that's kind of cropped up to say, like, hey, here's another awareness of you don't really own the things you're buying. And this is a pretty big list. I didn't go through all of it, but it's like hundreds and hundreds of episodes or shows or what have you. I could pull it up if we need to, but Hogue, I know you've talked about this stuff previously in different capacities. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so one, this is the Discovery content, both Channel and Warner Brothers, that Sony is losing the rights to. So we have to talk about a couple of things here. First, I would mention that this is not the first time that a Sony movie television media store licensing deal has failed, right? Last year, or maybe it was the year before, Studio Canal removed all its stuff from PlayStation. And so the way that this works from a legal perspective is the people that make something, a TV show or a movie, they license the right to redistribute that to a storefront like Sony or Microsoft or Hulu or Vudu or wherever you get your stuff from. And then when you buy a license to that, the storefront can only sell you the right to access that content for so long as they have the right to redistribute it. So if you go into the Sony terms and conditions, you'll see something that says essentially, we work on our contracts all the time, but we may lose the rights to what you purchased, and then we can pull it. Now, from the consumer perspective, nobody wants that. And in fact, nobody in the digital sphere wants any of this to be happening with Sony stores, because what it does is it causes a problem for everybody purchasing anything digitally everywhere. Is they say, well, if you could just pull it, I'm less inclined to give you $20 for that. Maybe it's only worth $14 now. Maybe it's worth 12. Maybe it's worth nothing because you can pull it from me for forever. And so Sony has had these hiccups that I think are going to cause damage to the libraries. Amazon has also had hiccups, I think, with Discovery as well. So from a legal perspective, your terms and conditions always say what they have to say with respect to intellectual property, which is that the store can only convey what it has the rights to. Now, on the gaming side, Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo and Steam are better at having in the contract, hey, if we lose the rights to redistribute, anybody that already has those rights gets to keep them. And Sony didn't do a good enough job in the early licensing with these various parties to have that in there, or they weren't worth it to them, right? When you put blame on this, it's a two-party street. So Discovery goes and asks for a re-upped contract for X amount of dollars. Sony says it's not worth that, whatever it might be. And then Discovery pulls its content. Sony says we have to pull it off of your access rights. But when we talk about these contracts, what we should be advocating for from a consumer perspective is for these companies to have their feet held to the fire, to get them signed right the first time. And if they didn't, to expend the extra resources to make sure that their people aren't left in the lurch when these contracts come up for renewal. So that sucks for Sony because Discovery is doing whatever it's doing. And Discovery is an important part of this story, because if you're following these studios at all, Discovery and Warner Brothers are going through a transition, right? They are going through a change in their entire streaming strategy. This is why you see these movies being cabined and used for tax write-offs and various other aspects of this. So this is all part of the same narrative. And so Sony is partly to blame, because I think we should hold their feet to the fire to go and make sure that they get the rights that they need to get the value for the money they've already collected. But Discovery is probably a rogue actor, wild card actor on this particular negotiation front. So it's both. From a consumer perspective, I understand everybody being upset about this, and people should be aware that the terms and conditions do say that you can only get what this party can convey. That's what you have when you have a middleman. But I don't think that there's a good answer other than to be aware of it and to continue to reduce your expenditures on stores that aren't negotiating the licenses properly, because they're more risky, right? When you have prices out there for other commodities, you discount those prices for risk. And so what Sony has shown through their media outlets is that it's a riskier purchase, because you might not get to keep them as long as if you had bought it through Vudu or iTunes or wherever. So spend your money where it's less risky and discount your expenditures where it is more risky. And that is the way that you signal as a consumer to do better to these companies. Is that perfect? No. Should there be changes in copyright law? Can we have better consumer protections in America on this stuff? Sure. But right now, that's the best thing that you can do, is be aware that that is the state of digital ownership, and that you should be cautious about where you spend your money for stores that have a history of not getting the license rights through however long you want to have that ownership.
Great info, Hogue. Thank you.
Great info. And actually, when it comes to older mediums like music and movies and television, I'm actually not super opposed to physical media. I think it makes more sense in those spaces, and it's for the exact reason that Hogue mentioned, which is that those contracts are different. And especially today, like the past couple of years, I had a couple of shows I really like had episodes removed because the content was deemed inappropriate, and so I went and bought DVDs for that. That sort of stuff is really scary in terms of historical revisionism and stuff like that. That just is a little icky to me. But it's just different in games because physical media have all of the same limitations as digital. They can still take the game away from you in the same manner because your disc doesn't have the game on it. It has the DRM, license on it. And so you can
not
all games now, like that. Yeah, all of them.
No, Larian literally just said Baldur's Gate 3 will have the full game up through patch 5 on disc.
Up to patch 5 is a pretty big caveat, sir.
No, patch 5 is literally the new one, right? That's coming out soon. My point is, it's not all games.
It's It's all games. I don't believe you're. I think that if you looked into the actual,
I think you're both saying the same thing, right? Because I think Travis is going to say that Baldur's Gate will continue to expand, and it'll still call home to Larian.
Yeah.
And so if Larian just hit a button that said these no longer work, then that would still
exactly right.
No, it's not, because they've literally said you can play the game on disc.
Yeah,
right, but
that's the point you're making, Travis, is you can't play the game because you have to connect.
I love Larian. I don't think they have any intention of hitting any buttons to take away your Baldur's Gate.
They could. Is my point.
Okay.
They could take.
You're not listening to what we're saying.
I am listening to what you're saying. I don't think you're understanding what Hogan's saying. Yeah.
No, you're saying they can push a button and stop you from playing even if you have the disc. And what I'm saying is that
Baldur's Gate, it calls Larian. I mean, that's the front screen.
It has to. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my point, Ains, is that even if the full game is on the disc, they can't update the content that's on the disc. And so as the game changes, your disc isn't getting new content added to it. And
that wasn't what we were talking about. You're saying you can't play the game.
My point is that you own the game as much as Larian says that you own it, in the same way that you do when you're digital. And I think this idea that the disc magically protects you from the rules of DRM it's just a false narrative. It's not true.
Usually doesn't. Correct.
Always. But yeah, I have give me an example. I still have yet
I just did, but you won't accept it.
That's because I think you're misunderstanding what it actually does. But yeah, I get that you think that it protects you. A lot of people do that. It's kind of like astrology. But yeah, I have no problem when it comes to movies and TV, because I think that those are different. They work differently, and I do buy physically. And especially with movies, you actually get the digital version as well most of the time when you buy it. So I think that
Travis is just saying he doesn't want George Lucas's remasters of Star Wars. That's what he's saying.
Hey, without George Lucas's remasters of Star Wars, I wouldn't have McClunky, Hogue. My catchphrase, all right? Without him changing things 30 years later, I wouldn't have McClunky.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. No, I just I'm a big fan of I think games got digital a lot more right. The way the stuff that you get when you buy digitally, I think is much more beneficial and consumer friendly, frankly, than physical. So
okay,
what's next?
What's next? Other than you being wrong about the disc, we're going to move on to talk about Destiny 2.
That should cheer Travis up.
Before we jump there, though, we did Britt gave us a super chat, $4.99 super chat, saying this is why we should not be able to say purchase on the button. It should have to say lease.
I agree that the buy button on these things, I think, is perhaps a little bit too obfuscatory for the average consumer, and that you are bordering on a kind of common law fraud notion here. What you're actually buying is a license. You are 100% purchasing that license, but you aren't purchasing the perpetual right to watch Die Hard. You're purchasing the license that they can give you.
Gotcha.
And that's different from leasing a license.
Gotcha.
Not to get too lawyery on this. So there are legal reasons why buy and purchase are acceptable words there, but I don't think they're acceptable for the common understanding of a consumer.
Gotcha. By the way, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say on Larian's site, with Baldur's Gate 3 on PlayStation 5 and Xbox being fully playable on disc. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, but what version of the game? All the data.
I just said they said through patch 5, the one that's coming out soon.
So then you own that version of the game. Is my point. You don't actually own the full game.
That's not the point. You're shifting. That's not what you were just arguing.
I'm saying exactly what I just said earlier.
I think you're both saying something that is slightly different, and that you're both right.
You were saying it has to connect to the Larian server to play. I'm saying no, it's playable on disc, which they've clarified.
I said a version of the game. Like there are examples of people publishing discs that you can play the full game on. Like somebody in the comments pointed out, Limited Run does that, but that's a version of the game, right?
Yeah, and here's where I think the difference is, Ains, right? So Larian says you can play it on disc. That's to differentiate between a game that has just a disc that has just a call function on it, and you have to go download the whole game. Larian is trying to say you don't have to download the whole game. But what Travis is saying, and what Travis and I are saying to some extent, is that Baldur's Gate will continue to evolve, and that the disc is not going to give you Baldur's Gate 19, obviously.
Of course.
So version 19, you still have to call Larian. And if you turn on Baldur's Gate, you can play it off the disc, but it's still going to call home to Larian, and Larian can make changes. Larian today in 2023 can't commit to what Larian in 2039 is going to do.
I never disagree with that. I'm just saying you can play the game.
Yep.
You can play
on the
a
disc.
game on the disc.
And for games like limited run games or others that people pointed out, those games are finished and not receiving further updates.
Some
lot
of them.
Yeah.
But my point is you can play a game.
No, hold on, let me finish. So again, you going no games you can play on the disc is wrong. Period.
I completely disagree with that. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, I think you're missing my point. But
we're to Travis's understanding of Destiny 2's $15 package of goodies.
It's like talking in circles. So Destiny 2.
I think you're missing the point entirely, but yeah.
As you are. So Final Shape has moved to June 4th. They moved Final Shape back to June 4th. And Travis, feel free to correct me on any of this, but what I got from the press release. So Final Shape is relaunching on June 4th. In April, they're going to begin a 2-month content update, which will kind of prepare you for Final Shape. And they're going to do weekly events starting in February as well. So it looks like they're trying to kind of move this final go of Destiny 2, whatever that is, to kind of 2024, the first half of 2024, which will lead up to this final expansion. So I know we talked before, especially with Lightfall, Travis, around Destiny 2 kind of having a rough year and not kind of hitting the mark for the long-term players. They've seen some player drop-off because of it. How has this been received since this announcement earlier this week?
Well, the announcement was too late because this leaked like almost a month ago. And Jason Schreier and Rebecca Valentine and other people who know the Destiny community said that when the layoffs were announced and they lost 8% of their staff, that they had also decided to delay the game and we're going to need more time, especially with a smaller team working on it. So this was one of those things where the community was kind of upset at Bungie for not addressing the delay earlier. Like people were asking them in social and online, like, when are you releasing the game? And I had said on The Last Word that the only reason Bungie hadn't addressed it yet is because the layoffs were still new and they were probably still trying to decide on what the release date was going to be. And so I predicted that they weren't going to announce a new release date announce the delay until they had a new release date in mind. And so I think that took time, but they did come up with their release date and also what their plan is. The plan is a little troubling for the way that Destiny is currently doing their live service model. I don't have a problem with a live service that says take a break, but Destiny doesn't do that right now. They expect their players to play every day, and that's sort of how they're set up. And so last time that they went through a delay of this kind and had to delay it by 6 months, they got lucky because it happened to be the 30th anniversary of Bungie, and they had a little like mini expansion coming out right around that time that served as like okay, well, this is something to do for the next couple months now that we have to wait even longer for our expansion. They don't have that this time. And so an extra 6 months with no additional seasonal content in the pipeline and no major events is a big deal. And so the 2-month patch that you're talking about, they always do that before they release an expansion. So that's not really any new content. That's just like they prep the sandbox for what the guns are going to feel like and what the balances are going to be in the new expansion. So that's not really content. That's just the stuff that they always do before they put out an expansion. They make sure that the sandbox is stable and that everything's balanced before you play their new content. And then the other stuff, weekly events, my fear is that those are just going to be things like Iron Banner, which is something that they do like once a month. That's not really much of an event at all. It's sort of just
they did say Guardian Games, whatever that is.
Guardian Games happens every year around that period. Anyway, they do every season, every 3 months, they do like one major event. So that is something that already happens around that time that isn't new. And so it is it's a little troubling to think that they're basically just going to try to bridge that gap with weekly content that isn't unique in any way, so far as we can tell. In my mind, if they were a more healthy live service game, and I think this is probably where they're heading in the future, they'll probably release more substantial content with larger wait times in between. But unfortunately, the culture around Destiny right now is to not do that. It's you need content every single week. It is a weekly like log on. They're really into engagement and tracking that people are engaging with their game. And maybe that's because they put so many microtransactions in their game. They need people on for longer so that they're more likely to spend money. But for whatever reason, that is the culture around Destiny right now. And it seems like Destiny, the people at Bungie are still chasing that dragon, which is I don't think going to go well for them. I think it's going to be a pretty painful 6 months for the Bungie community while they're waiting. To me, that's fine. Like, I just wish they would just not do anything with the game and be okay with people not playing, because I got to imagine that they're expending a lot of resources trying to keep the wheels on this thing. And it's just like, would it be crazy for you to be like, hey, we're having a 6 months delay. We have nothing planned during that window. Maybe play another game. And for whatever reason, probably because they're trying to get those microtransactions and they just are not doing that. And they've tried it in the past and the community's not reacted well to it. But I do think after the final shape, based on what we know of their new model with episodes rather than seasons, that it seems like they're finally getting into that mindset of, we don't need an expansion every year. Sometimes expansions take more than a year to make. And we don't need to have players logging in every single day. Maybe we can have longer gaps between the content. I think that's the direction they're headed in the future, especially with them launching a second game probably around the time that they would implement that model. It's unsurprising but unfortunate news, and I don't think their answer to how we're going to spend the time those 6 months is satisfactory. And I kind of wish that they would just tell players to take a little bit of a break. I certainly am going to be taking a break during that time. So
is Final Shape the end? Like,
no.
When Final Shape releases and whatever that expansion turns out to be, has Bungie commented on, is that the end of Destiny 2 outside of maintenance at that point?
Nope. It is not the end at all. It is the end of the Darkness and Light saga, which means that the storyline that began at the beginning between the Traveler and this unnamed darkness is officially going to be over, but there's going to be other adventures. And in fact, they've already announced what some of those are. There are episodes that are happening every however long they want to do it. It's like, and they mentioned that the content is beefier, that the episodes are going to last longer than the current seasons do, and they're going to take more weeks to complete. And they have like a weekly sign on and like do this part of you can do one act, and then 4 weeks later, act 2 becomes available. So they have content coming. We don't know if there's going to be a Destiny 3 or if they're going to upgrade the game in any significant ways. But my guess would be it'll probably be a pretty long gap between the Final Shape and the next major expansion. They're probably just going to be doing like smaller episodes. And then my guess would be like 2 years, 2.5 years, we'll hear about what the next thing is, and they'll rebrand it as basically like a soft Destiny 3.0, even though Destiny is long past the 3.0 actually. So it'd be more like a 4.0. Lightfall was their official 3.0 in terms of their like engine and all that. It's an interesting, nobody really knows. I take that as a good sign, because I think that they're finally admitting that releasing an expansion every year is unsustainable, and that their quality is varying so drastically. Some years you get Witch Queens and some years you get Lightfalls, and you never know which one it's going to be. And I think they're just saying like, look, Activision is the one who got us on this release every year train, and we don't have to do that anymore because we're with PlayStation. And so let's just have longer gaps and make the quality more consistent and all that stuff. But I mean, this is more bad news in an extremely bad year for Destiny, and the fact that we're not going to really get anything to answer that question of what Destiny's future looks like until June is pretty rough. That said, the other thing that leaked after the layoffs, and there were all those Destiny scoops because people no longer worked at Bungie and were just talking, is that the Final Shape was good, not great, according to their own employees. And so with that coming out of the kind of early play tests and leaking, I'm very glad they delayed it, because the thing that will kill Destiny and probably ensure that it doesn't have much of a future is if the final conclusion that players have been waiting for a decade ends up flopping. Even if it's good, Destiny still might die, because so many people I know are like, I've either stopped playing or I'm going to join for the Final Shape and then I'm out. Like, I'll count that as my kind of end game, the
I was gonna say, Travis,
Marvel end game.
I think to Ains's point about whether it's over, Bungie might not think it's over. Marvel
Yeah.
didn't think Endgame was the end, but
Yeah.
it looks increasingly like it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the position that they are risking, is that even if Endgame is the final shape is amazing, it might be kind of the killing blow to a lot of the fan base that they've built up over the year, who are just sort of exhausted by 10 years of Destiny. But there's also the opportunity for them to put some distance between the players and keep doing smaller things, and then have a big revival in 2 or 2.5 years, which I think they will do. And I think they'll get there, because they're Bungie. They're a very talented studio. They have Sony as a security blanket, and they also have Marathon in the pipe, which I think Marathon is probably going to be a successful game. I mean, it's made by a team who knows their stuff. So yeah, it's a precarious situation. I can tell you that like most of the people I know, or even the diehards, are sort of at this point like, all right, I'm probably going to take a long break at the very least after the final shape. And I certainly understand that.
Well, and they got a lot of live service competition, and they'll have more with the first half of 2024.
Yep.
Yeah, it's only going to get the marketplace only going to get tougher for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, because I mean, we've talked about this before. I know we don't have to stay on it, but there's people like yourself and many others who have thousands and thousands of hours and thousands of dollars probably invested in Destiny at this point. And kind of interesting to see after this final shape, if this doesn't really hit, like you said, and Destiny just kind of goes into maintenance mode for at least for a time. Yeah, it's a shame, really. Feels like they need to rebrand it long term, just Destiny, and whatever that next future is going to be.
Yeah,
and they continue to be.
Well,
this is a point of contention in the community, but like a lot of people think there either needs to be a Destiny 3, or they need to just like do a refresh. And then there's other people who say, no, don't you dare. I invested so much time in this game. I don't want you to do that. And
yeah,
I don't really know what Bungie's going to do. At the very least, they're going to have to update their engine in a big way, because it's definitely showing its age in a kind of unsustainable way at this point. But there's ways for them to do that and keep the Destiny 2 title. And some games, the second one is the one that lives forever, like Dota 2 is the one that is now just forever. So I don't know if the Destiny having the 2 at the end of it is like the biggest deal in the world, but I do agree there needs to be a rebrand. And I think Bungie is already planning on what that looks like, because they're ending the story and they're adding these episodes that clearly are not, hey, this is us starting our next big saga. It's just like, hey, here's some minor episodes to kind of keep you busy and give you options to stay engaged while we work on whatever is next. And I think they have big plans, and I really am hoping that it means they're going to get away from the yearly expansions model and just like take their time to make Destiny a consistently more enjoyable experience, because the tug of war of Witch Queen was amazing, and then this expansion is just awful, is just not it doesn't feel good at all. So
Well, I mean, I do think it's interesting, because the landscape is more competitive. I think that my Diablo 4 time would have been spent in Destiny in prior years. So that's interesting to me. I do think Final Shape is going to run the risk of being an endgame for a lot of folks that have hung on longer than I have, right? I popped back on for Witch Queen and popped back off pretty easily. And then your reviews, Travis, of Lightfall did not convince me to join back up. I did see Lightfall because my brother played it around me, and I was not eager to jump back into Destiny. I would like to play that game again. And I've come around to your position, Travis, that live services revive perhaps a little bit more often than we think that they do, because people want to believe in these things. People want to have fun with them. And so I do think a Destiny just reframed as Destiny, or calling it Guardians, or whatever they wind up doing in the future, would be something that the gaming industry would rally around and people would want to see succeed if there's enough time between like the 10-year sequence of Destiny and the comeback. I do think that Bungie is a studio that's capable of that.
Yeah.
But the current state of Destiny is not one that I want to engage with, both because of the onboarding. And then the other thing that hit my timeline a bunch was, Travis, tell me what in the heck is a starter pack, and why do people care about it so much?
God. Yeah. So I actually wrote a story about this week. So with the new season, the Season of the Wish, Bungie released a $15 microtransaction called a starter pack. And it came with a couple things that are basically pay to win. It came with a couple exotic weapons and pieces that you normally have to get by playing the game and doing high level activities. And more importantly, in my opinion, it came with lots of materials that take hours and hours of grinding and leveling up to obtain. And so it was this sort of like, if it is meant for starters, it's a great way to slap new players in the face and go, hey, you have to pay an extra $15 tax because you missed out on all these years. And rather than changing our game to make it more approachable for newcomers and give you resources that are needed to play the game, we're going to upcharge you to make our game feel good, right? Because if you start the new game in Destiny and you're trying to just like get into the end game, the fact that you are completely starved for resources makes a lot of people just like drop off, because the alternative is you invest hundreds of hours in trying to climb up it. And so you would think that for new players, they'd go, hey, you're new, you're way behind. Here's a bunch of resources to catch you up a little bit. Now go and have fun. But instead of doing that, they took the most just tone deaf approach and said, we're going to charge you $15 to make you not hate your life when you start playing Destiny for the first time, which is crazy. And then beyond that, if you're just a regular Destiny player and you're people spending all these resources all the time, you might just buy the starter pack because it cuts away hours of grinding. Destiny has flirted for a long period of time with pay to win, microtransactions that impact gameplay or impact the grind in some way. They flirted with that, but this was the farthest they've ever gotten in terms of crossing that actual line. And a day after they announced the starter pack, they removed it from their store because the backlash was really hard. It was like people were just like, dude, this is the dumbest thing you guys have ever released. And so they pulled it. Unfortunately, the reason they pulled it was they said, we want all of our microtransactions to spark joy, and this one didn't, was their kind of phraseology.
Spark joy?
Yeah, it was basically like, hey, this wasn't bringing joy to our community, so we removed it. But they did not anywhere in the retraction say that they acknowledged that they had crossed a line into pay to win mechanics and mechanics that directly impact gameplay. And my takeaway from that is that this is something that is still very much on the table for them and that they want to be a part of the game eventually. And if you look at their minus 45% projections that we talked about a couple weeks ago, it's no wonder why. And so this is a line that I think if they cross, they will be shooting themselves not in the foot, probably in the gut. Like that is a pretty vital thing for them to do. And so that was a crazy 24-hour controversy that is already over, but I think it does unfortunately allude to a future that Bungie doesn't seem to be stepping away from.
Wow.
I think that's a good explanation. I know that a lot of people asked me about it, and I said, I am not in the Destiny community right now.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, pay to win mechanics. It's pretty classic. Like this is pay to win. Like, hey, a booster pack that gives you all these advantages in the game. It's like, dude, no, this ain't it, dude. Like, yeah. So I honestly think they've been headed that direction for a while. And we talk almost every week on The Last Word about like the things in the monetization model in Destiny that make no sense. Like the fact that they treat it like a premium game, but then have all these add-ons and microtransactions and other stuff. It's just ridiculous. So hopefully they can get their house in order at some point.
It's inscrutable to me. And I'm technically someone that bought it in both games at launch, played them for hundreds of hours, and then took a break.
Yeah. But also known as a filthy casual who basically hasn't played Destiny.
Yes. Yeah. I will accept that, also known as. But you try to go engage with it, and it's like, I don't recognize this game. I'm not onboarded properly.
Yeah. They're also the starter pack included a bunch of like high level crafting materials, and it comes right on the eve of them removing one of the most important currencies from the game altogether that some people have stockpiled tens of thousands of that material on, myself included. It's like their main currency, legendary shards, are just being removed from the game. No compensation to players for all that stuff that's just gone. Like you had tens of thousands of this currency that was really important, and now that currency doesn't exist. And so the idea of spending real world money to up those numbers for currencies that they have famously changed and gotten rid of and retired dozens of times at this point is crazy to me, because it's like, how long is that shard thing going to be in the game anyway that you're making me pay money for. It's just crazy, man. That the Google monetization model is probably one of the worst in the business.
No,
You said
that's
Google
wild.
there?
What did I say?
The Google monetization model?
Oh, did I say that? Oh.
Or
But
did I
the Bungie monetization model is one of the worst in the business. Like
I think you might have said Google, but I
Did I
didn't
say
even.
Google?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just carried on. Like, yeah.
But yeah, no, Destiny's. Oh,
It's
maybe
easy
I was
to agree
reading.
with that sentence.
Yeah, maybe I was reading Googleman's username. I don't know.
Google
Sparkle
man,
Pony.
Google,
Yeah, I might have actually been reading that. I don't know.
Googleman with the 149 euro super sticker says hashtag Sparkle Pony.
Sparkle Pony.
Sparkle Pony. Appreciate you, Google. I don't know if that's a Destiny reference, Googleman. I wouldn't know. Is Sparkle Pony relevant to you at all, Travis?
Yeah,
Seems like
maybe
you could make a
maybe
Sparkle
they're
Pony
talking
out of
about
light.
they might be talking about the cosmic horse that's in the game. There's a magical
okay.
horse in Destiny, but I don't know if that's
Of
what
course
he's
there
referring
is.
to. When I see
Of course.
when I see Sparkle Pony, I would have thought Butt Stallion from Borderlands.
Yeah,
but
that's what I
that's
think
just
too.
me. Yeah.
Thank you, Google. Appreciate you.
Well, look, I'm not against all microtransactions. I've said that I bought the Diablo horse, but it does sound bad, Travis. It does sound like you're flirting
The
on.
horse is cosmetic, though.
That's what I was just gonna say.
That
yeah.
No, that's what I agree with that. I'm saying that the Bungie pack does sound like it's getting up there on mobile gacha games type of microtransactions, which is not something that tends to go over terribly well here in the United States.
No, that sounds rough from the way you described it. Like, I've spent a lot of money on Halo Infinite, but it's just skins, right? Skins and effects and stuff. Same with Diablo, Path of Exile is the same. We've talked about that before, right? Cosmetics is where they should live primarily, and sometimes those cosmetics are expensive, like going back to Rocket League, you can buy like a car and pack in that game for like $25-30. I know Apex is the same, but there's nothing you're buying that's giving you an advantage or changing the gameplay itself, and I think that's important. So what you described is kind of a nightmare scenario, honestly. So
yeah, and
feels
if you
like we've
trust you really have a problem long term.
Yeah, feels like we've mostly gotten away from that in kind of big AAA games, but I'm kind of surprised that it's that prevalent in Destiny.
Well, that's the virtue of voting with your pocketbook, right? People say that you can't change things like the copyright issue we talked about before, but you see it all the time, right? Bungie and some of these other companies didn't stop doing loot boxes and some of the other more gacha related techniques because they thought it was a bad idea on their own. They thought it because it took all this heat from various parts of the gaming community, and the revenue numbers never made up for that heat. So Bungie flirting with it should get a newspaper in the nose if consumers can give it. But if they don't, I always remind people, sometimes what you hate or what you don't like is not seen the same way or as bad by everybody. And so if folks aren't as upset about it as you, it doesn't mean that the system isn't working or that voting with your pocketbook isn't. It's that you don't necessarily have enough people on your side, or it hasn't been publicized enough. So awareness is key for things like the Discovery issue and Studio Canal and the starter pack for Bungie and Destiny. And as long as you keep doing that, the companies will hear you. It's always about the money on the table.
Yeah. And I think to some degrees, we're all part of the problem, depending on our own preferences and enjoyment, right? 343 got a little flack a few weeks ago because they announced two things. So if you now get hero rank, which is the career rank system, they give you Chief's armor from Infinite. So the most modern armor, which looks great. But they sold in the store the Halo CE armor, right? The original Master Chief armor for $20. So there's nothing you're getting but looking like Chief from CE for $20, which naturally I bought, but generally speaking, because that's one of my most beloved things. But is it worth $20? No. Absolutely not. And they got
I mentioned that I bought the horse because that was in a bunch of articles about Blizzard being greedy. And as I said the other week, is I bought the horse because it was essentially just a premium currency package with a horse. Yeah, and that's what it was. Yeah. And so it was a good deal for what I knew was my main live service game right now and for the foreseeable future. And when you have that, it's easy to spend to get the premium currency packages because I'm going to spend that anyway on battle passes, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was a time where even the idea of downloadable content, do you remember that? Like in the Mass Effect 2
the
days,
original
where
horse
like,
armor.
yeah, it was like,
I
dude, if
literally
you,
remember saying, sorry to interrupt you, Travis. I
no, go
literally
ahead.
remember saying on a forum at the time, who is going to pay money for digital goods? Look at
Yeah,
how
it's
stupid I
crazy.
was.
Yeah. Not even digital goods though. The idea of DLC, like I remember they would make like substantial expansions and people were like, "Wow, that's so scummy." They probably took it out of the game and
Right.
just sold it to you separately, you know. It's like, yeah, the Shivering Isles from Oblivion, totally. That they just
Brood
took that
War.
right out, you know what I
I
mean?
always think of Brood War.
Yeah, or for some reason I think of like the Mass Effect 2 DLCs, like the Shadow Broker DLC and stuff, and
Shadowbroker.
there
Or map packs.
there were some that felt like they actually took it out of the game, like day one DLC, where like if you pre-ordered the game or you bought the deluxe edition, you got an extra character that felt really scummy. But like,
Or mission, or
yeah, or like one mission that wasn't in the game that you had to buy the specific version, like that was admittedly scummy. But I think the consumer has sort of chilled out a little bit on the like all microtransactions are bad. Like obviously we like our DLC and expansions. I think we've even embraced microtransactions that are purely cosmetic and don't impact gameplay. But I think it's up to consumers to keep that, to hold the line when it comes to like, we don't want to pay to win. And gotcha games are unfortunately, even as much as I love Genshin Impact and Star Rail, it's like they're pushing that line pretty hard because those games are effectively pay to win. They're also different though, because the game itself is free. And so I think you give a little bit leniency when you're not paying for a game like that. But
I do.
the problem with Destiny is that they're making you pay for the full game. It is a full $70 game or $100 game. And then they do season passes that are sold separately, and then expansions that are sold separately, and then dungeons that are sold separately, and then microtransactions. And then you pay for transmog. And now they've got starter packs. It's like, dude, what are you doing with this model? It's nuts. And it's just because it's been around for 10 years and they've added it one piece at a time. And so it at no point looked like, you know, like the Stadia when it launched it right away and everybody went, that's never going to work. Consumers will reject that. It's sort of like they got you hooked and then they've added one new avenue of revenue at a time for 10 years until it just looks like this Frankenstein's monster.
I remember when they added the Eververse and people were concerned and they said, oh no, it'll never be that big of a deal. And it's like,
this was in Destiny 1, and now it's like 90% of the armor in the game is in the Eververse. Like your character looks like a pile of trash unless you spend money. Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy my angel horse in Diablo 4. So.
Nice. Well, I think that'll go ahead and wrap us up for today. So, chat, as always, thank you for hanging out with us here during the live show. Anyone checking us out, either audio or on the VOD, thank you so much for supporting us as always.
Yeah, like hit those buttons. Ains deserves them. Like some stuff. Subscribe to some stuff. Leave some comments. Tell him how much you enjoy his hat. Ains looks great today. Just call him a handsome man. He'll love it. YouTube will love it. You'll feel good about yourself. Ains will feel good about himself. Help the channel. Thank you, folks.
Will I? Probably not.
You will.
But yes, no, thank you. Chat, you're awesome. Thank you for everyone hanging out with us. I think on my front, I just want to call out, I did an article. This week was a long week. Did an article beginning of this week on some of the issues with the competitive aspects of Halo. Obviously, I talk about Halo all the time, so that article is out there if you want to read it. The nice thing was Tashi, who runs the HCS for 343, the Halo Championship Series, he actually responded, and they have some other changes coming down the line, which was pretty cool too. So that was cool to see. You can check that out. And then yesterday, I think I'm allowed to say that it should be coming out today or tomorrow. I recorded a separate Defining Duke Ultimate episode with Cog and Rand.
Nice.
Althor around Xbox's commentary around third-party publishing, what they're doing with ABK, that kind of stuff. So really, really fun conversation with those two guys. It's been a while since I've talked to each of them, so look for that as well. I'll make sure to share that out when that goes live. So,
nice.
Travis, what you got?
I've got 2 reviews in the works. I think one of them I'll be able to talk about this week, probably the Anacrusis review, which I haven't put a ton of time into because I'm working on 2 reviews at the same time. But then Asgard's Wrath, I'll be able to start talking about the first 15 hours starting the middle of this week. And then my full review will happen, midway through December, which will be my final review for the month. I'm also...
What was the final count?
25.
You hit it? Nice.
I hit it. Yeah, I tied with last year. So with much bigger games, which I'm personally proud of. And then I've also got some scoops coming out at the same time as the Game Awards. Obviously, I can't talk about any of that stuff, but I know some stuff that's happening at the Game Awards, and I'm really excited to talk about some games that haven't been announced yet. And then beyond that, you can follow me on Twitter if you want, but it's getting slower at this time of the year. Don't have a ton of stuff. Wait, what's the preview? Oh, I totally forgot to talk, Ains. One of the games I played this week was Tribes 3. We got to talk about that. Yeah, yes. How did we forget about that?
Tribes is back.
Yeah, Tribes is back. So if you're not familiar with the series, Tribes is like a very old school Twitch shooter. It's like you're not Twitch the streaming service, but Twitch the reaction time. And it's all about momentum and speed, and you skiing down hills and then catching momentum and jetpacking into the air. I played a bunch of it this past week, and I have a preview that's going to go live, I think, sometime tomorrow or maybe Tuesday morning. Basically the takeaway is that it's the same, like, really cool and unique and over the top, which is the cool part, is that there's not really any games like this. It's doing something very different in terms of the shooter world, which is like, all momentum based, and it's just interesting. My concern with it is that it does away with large arenas and changes it to a 5v5 mode, which if you play the old Tribes games, like the old ones, I think were 128 players max. Tribes 2, I think, was there. And then the most recent Tribe, what was it? Tribes Ascent, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Or Ascend. That game was, I think, 16 players for every team. So it was 32 max. And this, by comparison, the map is way smaller. The maps are way smaller. The teams are way smaller. And it just feels a little... It's still an interesting idea, but it feels so far from what the old Tribes games were, where it was just like massive battle arenas, that I have some concerns about it. But I'll have that all covered in my preview.
Nowadays,
it's High Res Studios, which is the same team Smite. They made Smite and those ones, and they also made the last Tribes games, Tribe Ascend.
They made a shooter as well. Damn it. I'm blanking on it. Sorry. They made a different one.
Yeah, I don't remember what their other games are, but I know that they get criticized a little bit for Tribes, the last Tribes game that they made, for not really supporting it and then eventually letting it die. And I think it's no longer listed on the Steam storefront. So like you just can't play it and the servers don't work or whatever.
Paladins. That's what it was.
Paladins. That's right. Yeah.
And Rogue Company.
Yeah. So they've worked on some stuff, but I don't know. I had fun playing the new Tribes game, but it definitely is a departure, and time will tell if it works out the way that they're hoping it would work out.
Cool. And Realm Royale, thank you, Shenanigans. What was I going to say? So I went back and looked. I did 10 reviews this year, so I'm less than 50% of your output, my friend.
I mean, that's not bad considering 0. Yeah. I mean, that's not bad, Ains, considering that you're doing it as a passion project and it's not your
full-time thing. I'm not getting paid for him. I am proud. I do want to call out Sorry Hogue before we get to him. We got a late super chat as well. I forgot to mention at the beginning. So it was Season Gaming's anniversary, if you will, on Friday, and it called out some cool stats for us. But we did almost 50 reviews this year, which, if you consider we're independent and non-monetized, that's a pretty good clip. So I wanted to shout out to to our guys over there, Alex and Zach and Steve and Eric and all the guys who publish reviews for us, which is awesome.
Your site did 50 and I did 25.
I know.
What a flex! I mean, yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's a little different IGN and SG,
Yeah, for sure.
But I also want to shout out that Bitcast. So if you look at audio combined with video for both Hogue's channel and our channel, we crossed 300,000 views and listens, kind of combined all up. So as we go into December here. So thank you for that. Very cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be a part of it.
it is cool. So Hogue, before you shout out, let's get this late super chat. I think Rob may be listening behind, or maybe behind, but said £10 super chat or 10 quid. My 2019 No Man's Sky disc up to the Beyond update is a game I can play on disc that it will download a new game if I go online. Did not change that. So yes.
Yeah, so that I think that gets to the crux of what our disagreement is, which is that you can play a version of the game. My point is it's not the game. You know what I mean?
May not be the latest version.
Yeah, it's not the game.
Right. It was a conversation about archival. So this is again why I think you're both right.
Yeah. I think in that sense you're right. It's just really a matter of like what you value or what you consider the game, which I would say like a version of the game or part of the game isn't the game. But
yeah. That's fair. And I think, it's definitely a very different environment today than it was 10,
I just
15,
think,
20
I think
years
like
ago.
the games industry has done so well with digital. I want to like support that because I feel like we have the best deal of all the mediums when it comes to the digital. All the other digital mediums suck. And like Discovery is a perfect example of like why you would never do that with that medium. And so I don't know. I try to defend because I think gaming largely gets digital right. So
for the most part, yeah. Robert, thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hogue, what you got?
Yes, well, I think now we're at almost 3 hours for this episode. I can say that I believe the studio is back and set up with the laptop. So I believe we're going to be back doing probably a virtual legality on maybe the Discovery Sony issue. People seem very interested in it. I'm getting a lot of requests for it. So we might do one of those early in this week coming up. I still have to work through some stuff because I didn't actually have a lot of stuff working in the background during a Bitcast episode. So I want to make sure and do some tests. I might even do a test that is live to have people chatting. And so we can just test to make sure the computer can handle all of that before we do an official episode. I don't know, but we'll be doing those things on the schedule. And I know I mentioned Lawyers and Dragons last week. Still planning to do a holiday special, but not in this coming week. So it'll be a little bit later on in December. And we're still getting our ducks in a row. But I think there's going to be a lot of fun there. So if you're interested in those things, we'll be back with Hangouts and Headlines and Virtual Legality and Lawyers and Dragons and all the fun stuff on the Hogue Law YouTube channel at a more regular clip now that I'm feeling a little bit more up to it and that I have a computer that appears to be able to last.
It's awesome, Ho. Glad to hear it. Looking forward to the L&D holiday special, and we'll have some more on our kind of holiday stuff we've talked about before on this show as well in coordination with SG. So good stuff. So I got to get out of here. I'm actually going to see Godzilla -1 here in about an hour and a half. So I'm going to get some food, go see Godzilla. I've heard it's great. I'm excited to see it. So
enjoy.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hope you have a good rest of the Sunday. And we will be back next week with a very busy show based on the things that are happening next week. So hopefully Dan is back and feeling better. And we'll talk about the Game Awards and a whole bunch of other things next week. Until then, enjoy whatever you're playing. Thank you for hanging out with us, and we will see you then. Peace.